Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, and the board retreat is now called to order. It is currently 8:02 a.m. All board members are present except for Director Karina Guzman-Ortiz. At this time, we will have our land acknowledgement by Director Harnish.
Good morning. We are gathered today on the land of Salem-Keizer, who are represented by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians. The relationship between the Calipoolia people and this land continues unbroken to this day, and we offer gratitude to the land and for the generations present and past who have stewarded the land since time immemorial. We respectfully acknowledge and honor past, present, and future Native American and Indigenous students and staff of Salem-Keizer Public Schools. We invite you to join us in honoring these ancestral grounds and celebrating the resilience and strength of all Native American and Indigenous people.
Thank you. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Thank you all for coming in on a Saturday morning to our board annual summer retreat. I'd like to very briefly turn the floor over to our superintendent, Castaneda, who will start our introductions portion of the agenda.
Thank you, everyone. This is actually a day that I think many of us look forward to all year because it's one of the rare opportunities we have to be together, get to know each other a little bit better, and then also just talk about the important work we have and we will be continuing to do. We are very fortunate to have two great facilitators with a lot of experience, both in our seats and also in your seats. And some of you may remember that about 2 years ago, Mike and Etika were here and they led us through our board retreat when we were back at the LPC. So I want to just acknowledge and thank them for all of the planning that has happened and the day that they're gonna lead us through. I think it's gonna be one with a lot of learning and a lot of important takeaways that'll strengthen our partnership, your governance, and our ability to navigate all of the opportunities and challenges that are coming. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over. Actually, a couple of quick housekeeping things. We are set up so that you're going to have to hold the button when you speak, except for our facilitators who have got the good tech. So you'll hold the button when you speak, and also over the course of our time together, we'll likely be using our laptops and accessing Diligent. We're going to use this as a little bit of a praxis session so that everybody has a chance to understand how to navigate it, where to find things, and actually refer to documents as we do our work. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Etika.
All right, very good, thank you. Would you mind projecting? As we're getting rolling here, Eric and my picture is going to be up there in a minute, so I'm going to talk really fast so we can get that picture down as soon as possible. If you can advance one. Just a little bit about both of us. So 36 years in education for me. I retired a couple years ago, and since that time have been serving as an executive coach. And turns out that I'm staying super busy with that. And my wife would say I'm flunking retirement, but I would say I'm doing all the best parts of the job. So I've really enjoyed that. Prior to that, was a superintendent for a lot of years in the Hillsborough School District, and did some time as a HR. When I say did some time, I don't. I was in HR for a few years. And then prior to that, principal and assistant principal and teacher and counselor before that. And I'll just say a few words about Erica. Eric and I worked together for a long time. She was a board chair and a board member in the Hillsborough School District for a lot of time. And her experience in public service is just off the charts. She's done a lot, not only at the state level, but locally just in the city of Hillsborough and throughout that region. She has been such a huge contributor. She was on the Oregon School Board for several years as well, and we oftentimes do retreats together. Fun fact about Erica, she's not a morning person, and on the drive here, she was amazed to see like how the sun comes up and what it looks like in the morning. So she was just amazed. True story, right? Yeah, true story. Anyway, we are excited to be here. If you can go ahead and advance one. All right, just a quick rundown of our agenda today. We are going to do a welcome activity, and it's not one of those activities where you have to get in a circle and rub the shoulders of the person in front of you. It's not that. It is just some questions that help us get to know each other a little bit. I think oftentimes as board members and as executive team members, we spend so much time in the work that we don't take just a few minutes every meeting to get to know each other a little better. We're going to do a little of that today. We also want to go over the board assessments and the results there, and we're going to give you some time to dive into that a little bit and not only look at the data that is presented, but then take a step further and then let's have a discussion about, is this particular board assessment measuring what we want to know? Are we asking the right questions? Is the data that you're receiving the data that you want to receive? Or is there some room for improvement there? And we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to do a quick overview of the board governance structure. I think every time there is a new board members or new executive team members, that's a great time to do that type of review. Then we're going to get into a couple of things that are be a big meat of what we're doing today, and that's board involvement in key work. And how can we make sure that board members are feeling super engaged in the initiatives that are going on in the district and decisions that are being made, and really talk about that in a practical way about how we can make sure that's happening. And then we'll wrap things up, and we're scheduled to be done at noon with our portion of things. You all, I think, are welcome to stay as long as you'd like, but I think we're going to be wrapped up about noon. All right, let's go ahead and advance. Okay, outcomes for the day. I won't read those to you, but do know that as we go through this, there are certain things we're looking for that we want to make sure happen today. And one of those is, I kind of already mentioned, is that we want to make sure that we have a deeper understanding of each other and what drives us in this work that we do. And then you can see the others pretty much match the agenda just straight down the line. We're fortunate to have the executive team members also going to be involved. We're going to include them in group work, and it'll give you an opportunity to get to know those folks a little bit and vice versa. And of course, as people that are in charge of major portions of the district and the work that gets done, it's important that their voice is in the room as well. All right. Okay. Now the minute you've been waiting for, introductions. We are actually going to just ask you to take a minute, and we're going to go around and we're going to ask you to share these things as we do. Your name, the time on the board, or time in the district, depending on your position. Why did you choose the board? Why did you choose to do this work, or the district service? And what's a moment in your life that shaped how you see education? And then just for fun, we want to know what's one of your highlights for the summer. All right? Who's ready to go? All right, Paul, thank you. So good. The new guy.
All right, thank you. I get to kick off. Awesome. So my name is Paul Odenthal. I have been with the district for minus 16 days as of today. But I'm excited to be here today and have the chance to meet you and engage with the board and with the executive staff for the first time. So thank you for allowing me to be here today as well. Why did I choose service as well? So, I spent 28 years in the Navy. I'm from Oregon, grew up in Staten, and, throughout my career in the military, there was no better place that I wanted to live, my wife and I both, than here home in Oregon. We're both from Staten as well. And after serving our nation, I needed a purpose. And, next to that, serving the children of our state and our students is to me the next best thing to what I did in the military as well, equal with that as well. So as I got out of the military, I look for those positions in higher education and in K-12, and I'm excited to be here as well and serve the students of Salem-Keizer as well. One moment in my life, well, so, there's a lot of little ones, right, as well. I would say one thing is I have 4 children. My wife keeps the count of this as well. Janet reminded me that we did 29 school transitions across our 4 kids as well. And so when we went from place to place, we're always trying to look at that place. The ones that we remember the best experiences where we walked into the school office and there was this welcoming feeling, administrators, the front office, engaging with our children, talking to them about their interests and getting them engaged as well. And so we've always worked to find that place for our children in the school as well, and I want that for every child as well. So I want to be part of that there. And then the highlight of the summer, again, four children. They're all adults now, significant others, 2 grandkids. They were home over the 4th of July from across the nation, and it was total chaos at our house for a week and a half, and it was just beautiful and great to have them all here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we just go around?
Sure. So, Bob Silva, I'm in my 10th year with the school district, started back in 2015 as Director of Technology, and then moved on to Chief Operations Officer, and currently serving time, thanks Mike, as Chief Human Resources Officer. Why did I choose this? I don't know if I can pinpoint it, but it comes back, 2 and 3 are kind of combined, just that giving back to the community, public service. I did leave the education industry for a year, and it just wasn't the same. Making money for another company just wasn't the same as how I felt about the work that I did when I was working in education. So I came back, and I've been in education ever since then. As far as the summer 2025 highlight, I'm still waiting for that to happen, but I'm sure it's on the horizon any day now.
All right, thank you. I'm Jackson Woods. I've been on the board on the district for like a couple weeks, at the most. I chose board service just because I really I got the opportunity at some point after a town hall meeting at our school to share my opinion, and that was really cool, and got like the local advisor board, and then I moved to the superintendents, and it's just such fulfilling work, and I wanted to do something with even more reach and like the capability to share student opinion, and this was it. One moment in my life that shaped how I see education, probably just like I don't know about other students, but I can just tell when like a teacher is gonna be a really good teacher, and like teachers like Mr. Curry and Mr. Nickel at my school, Go Sprague, are like, they really just shape how I see the world and my opinions, what I want in life, and that's really, really cool. My summer 2025 highlight, I don't know, I'm doing a lot of college work. That's quite interesting, so yeah.
Well, good morning. My name is Satya Chandragiri. I'm in the school board for 6 years now. This is the beginning of the 7th year, second round rodeo, I call it, second rodeo. Why did I choose school board? In 2018, Marion County had 20 completed youth suicide, and there were several from our school district. And there was 17 days apart from another high school where my daughter went to school, and so it was kind of near and dear to us. That's when I realized that none of the school districts in the state of Oregon even had a suicide prevention policy at that point in time. So me and my wife sat and talked about it, prayed about it, and I had no idea how to run for an election or anything like that. So I just put my name in the hat saying, we can't blame anybody unless we are willing to roll up our sleeves and show up. I'm a psychiatrist by profession and been serving our state for 25 years. It's not fair to ask teachers or anybody else to do something which they don't have a way to guide them, policy, practice, resources, etc. So that led me to run on a platform of mental health. And one of the child's mother showed up in my campaign launch, and she showed her son's photograph and spoke about it. And so I just gave her my word that I'll speak with her. And now I have to speak for her as well. So that's how I got introduced. I won that election. That was 2019, and that's how I think we became one of the first few districts in the state of Oregon to pass a suicide prevention policy before the law got implemented. So that way, it's very important for me. It's very important. Then, of course, the COVID and everything else came after that. What's one moment in your life that shaped how you see education? I didn't go to school in this country. I went to school in India. When I was 12 years old, my mom went missing for almost a year, and that time we didn't know anything about what mental illness was and schizophrenia was. A long story short, I came from North India to South India, a city called Bangalore, where everybody spoke English. I didn't know how to speak English, and I spoke Hindi. The medium of instruction was Hindi. So it was tough trying to get ready to go to school. And most of my fifth grade, I didn't go to class. I just wanted, it's like you talk of absenteeism today, I see in our children. That was that was me. Except that one teacher who was starting her career took some interest in me. I don't know what she saw in me, but I couldn't see in myself. She somehow called my parents and family, and somehow got me through the sixth grade. And she was my class teacher and English teacher. And if she had not taken that interest, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you, to be honest. And last year I went to India. I finally tracked her down after searching for her for 20 years. I met her. She remembered, when I called her on the phone, she remembered my name, my dad's name, my sister's name. So that was one turning moment. That was like a watershed moment in my life. So when I see the metrics of absenteeism, I don't see that as a problem. That's a symptom of an underlying cause. And that's how I started visualizing how that changed the trajectory in my life and my children and everybody else. Why it's important? Because my grandmother used her thumb to sign because she didn't know how to read and write. It just takes one little intervention by one person to change the whole trajectory. And I see that possibility for all our children. So what's summer of 2025 highlight? We did some, can you believe it? We went to Lake Tahoe and we had some fun. My son came with his girlfriend to visit us, and so we went to the coast. So we were able to take some time off, which is good, which always feels better. And Oregon is a beautiful state, so there is a lot of nice places to see, and the drive to Tahoe was lovely, and drive back was lovely. So we went to Mount Shasta on the way. So there are nice parts of our own country we can appreciate and enjoy, so that's what I did. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mel Fuller, and I've been on the board a couple weeks, maybe. I was just newly elected back in May. I chose board service because I feel like, actually, I don't know why. No, I chose it because it's something that I've always followed along with board issues since my children started in the district. And I just think it's really important for students and their families to have role models on the board who demonstrate hard work and authenticity and willing to show up and get the work done that they need. A moment in my life that shaped how I see education, I've been thinking about this as the question came up, and I think it's when my oldest son started school at Grant in kindergarten, and just seeing the principal and the staff being on the porch to welcome us as we walked up. I thought that was just really personable and wonderful, and it was just, I'm sure that those staff had a million other things that needed to be done at that moment on the first day of school, but they chose to be on the porch and welcome us, and I've just always felt that from the district the entire time we've been here. A summer 2025 highlight, you might hear my voice is a little hoarse. It's because yesterday I was at an all-day fiddle contest down in Corvallis. So that was certainly a big highlight to see all my fiddle friends from across the country and compete and just spend the day doing one of our favorite things, which is playing music. And kind of sandwiched in between another highlight today because tomorrow we leave for a week-long camping trip. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to sit here today with a cup of coffee and kind of be still for a little while. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Richardson. I don't.
Hers is on.
This is my third year on the board. I've been in Salem-Keizer School District for 28 years. I have served in Texas, Nebraska, and Oregon. I came here as an assistant principal at the high school, went to the middle school as assistant principal, middle school principal, high school principal 14 years, and director of equity 6 years. And it was time to retire. And just like you, I failed. Yeah. I just wasn't ready to stop. So I had several community members, former students come and say, Ms. Richardson, we need you on the school board. And I'm like, I don't know anything about the school board. Ms. Richardson, you've been in education. How many years? You don't know? No, I don't. But anyway, they ran my campaign, and I was elected, and so now I serve. What's one moment in your life that shaped how you see education? My family. My grandfather could not read and write, but he owned his own company. My grandmother was a teacher. My mother and father were teachers. And I watched how diligently they worked with their students to make sure that they never gave up on them and that their students never gave up on themselves, and that they would do whatever it took. Pick kids up, feed kids, provide clothing for them, whatever it took to make sure the kids were successful. That shaped me, and that's part of who I am today. My summer highlight, I have two quick ones. The first one is personal. My oldest son lives in Mukilteo, Washington. He has 2 kids, and he needed some emergency child care. So he called my ex from Texas and me from here and asked us to come and sit with the kids for a few days. That was so interesting to see that my granddaughter, 11 years old, could tell that man what to do and handle him in ways that I never could. That was really a highlight. That was just great. That was just great. Great. And my second highlight was the summer graduation. I am so proud of all of those students who chose not to give up, and the staff who worked with them and helped them to persevere and to graduate, making them believe they could be and that they are more than enough.
Nice. Thank you.
I am Andrea Castaneda, the superintendent. I am just starting my 3rd year, which feels good. Like year 1 definitely felt like rookie season. Year 2 felt like rookie and a half. And now I'm starting to feel like I know a lot more about our community and also this role. I have never wanted to do, well, I should say it. Since I was about 19, I have never wanted to do anything other than work in schools. So I think the why is probably connected to a moment that shaped me. So some people in this room there's going to be a generational split here, but some people in this room might remember college blue books. Anyone remember those? So if you have, for whatever reason, never seen a college blue book, it's you sit in an exam hall and they hand out these books, like this big. And that is what you write your exam answers into, and then when you're done, you hand them over. And when I went to college, I went from this very small agricultural high school. And when I went to my first exam, I got the blue book, I sat down, and I wrote my exam, but I was done in like 10 minutes. And it was like a 2-hour exam. And so I sat there and I thought, well, these other students just must not know as much as I know, but I don't want to seem disrespectful. So what I'm going to do is decorate the cover of my blue book. And so I very elaborately decorated the cover. And then when we turned it in, I noticed that nobody else had done that. And I had this moment where I realized what that meant. And what it meant was that I actually didn't have any of the tools I needed to be where I was. And that the fact that I worked for 10 minutes meant that I didn't even know what was happening to me, and everyone around me did. And this happened to be at a university that they don't really fail you out. What they do is they freeze you out. The nature of IVs is that they just kind of very slowly close the door on you and show you that you're not part of them, that you're irrelevant to their fundamental mission, because their fundamental mission assumes that you have things that I didn't have. And I remember so clearly that blue book moment, because it's when I realized that the system was telling me that I didn't belong there. And that changed how I see education, because I thought, this can't be the way it is. It can't be that some kids belong and some kids don't. Okay, summer 2025 highlight. Last weekend, my mother, me, and our youngest daughter went to visit my 95-year-old grandmother. We had 4 generations together for a full weekend. Looked at family photo albums, told stories, did all the things that you can only do a few times in your life, and it was really wonderful.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Parker, newly elected school board member just back in a few weeks ago. Reason why I chose to do school board. This goes kind of to why, also intertwined together, why education shaped. But I think it's always because I've been an advocate for students. My profession is I'm an employment service manager. I work with individuals with developmental disabilities, and I also have a son who has some intellectual disabilities too. The reason I just watched his childhood and all those my clients that I work with, and I just wanted to be an advocate for them, mentor them, a teacher, to work with them, see them succeed. Every time I see them learning something, learning a new skill, new trade, it means so much to me. It means I think I get more benefit actually out of it. It's more, I get so happy. And then that kind of goes back to why, this third question, why education shaped me. There was a couple moments in my life that I remember. One of them, when I was a little girl and I didn't want to do my homework, I wanted to play. I had a book report to do. And I kept putting it off. And then my grandmother, she sat me down. She worked with me. She taught me how exciting learning new things could be. It was about koala bears, and then now all of a sudden I love koala bears. She taught me the importance of, if you don't have education, you're not going to succeed. You need education. Will make you a better person, make you strong, make you succeed in life. So I remember then, first time I started getting excited about learning new things. And then a few years later, I was in high school, and I was in geometry class, and it was not working out very well, and I had enough credits to, that I didn't need geometry anymore. So I went to my student advisor, and he put me into the special education as a student aide. And so that was the first time I got to work with students with disabilities. And it just became natural. I enjoyed it. I loved working with them. In fact, even on my report card, I guess he told my parents that I had actually a skill in that earlier in life. And then, years after graduation, then that became my profession. So I think that's how just seeing the enjoyment, learning students experience a new world, seeing the smiles on their face, that's how education that's why I feel education is very important. As far as the highlights, well, I really enjoyed the graduation the other night for all the students. That was really great. Also, I got to go to spend some time with my doggie, my Corgi, the love of my life, in Seaside for Corgi Fest, and that was a blast. I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning again. My name is Lisa Harnish, and I have been on the board for 1 year, actually a little bit longer, but this is my first time as an elected board member. I had the honor and pleasure of being appointed in March of '24. I chose board service because I'm absolutely passionate about our community. I'm passionate about families. I'm passionate about children, and really want to do all that I can do to help our schools be everything that they need to be for community. We've heard little snippets here about how our schools really are that focal point for our community. They need to be that welcoming place. They need to be that place that inspires, that really helps to pull on the strengths, whether they are realized or not yet. But that's the power of our school system, and it's just a real cornerstone for our community as a whole. And so I just want to do everything that I can do to help our children and help our families succeed. And I'm having troubles finding one particular moment. I'm sure like everybody else, there's lots of little moments, but I am actually going to pull on a moment, and it involves my daughter, who is always been very driven. In middle school, she was researching colleges and knew all their missions and all the things. I'm like, wow, that's not how I searched for colleges, and I certainly didn't do it in middle school. But she pulled a data report on how many homeless families or homeless children they were in the district when she was in middle school. And I was like, that just blew the socks off of me, that she, and it just was illuminating to me. And I just thought, this community, we have so much work to do to help ensure that our families and children have what they need. And it really starts with the basics. And, so that was just one of those moments to me where I just was like, we have to do more to educate. We have to do more to pull our community together. So that's just one moment. And summer 2025, I'm saying that the highlights haven't happened yet. It's been quite a summer so far for me, but I'm going to make up for it in August. I'm going to a Seahawk game. My daughter's coming to visit for a few days, and I'm going to Portugal. So there you go.
Thank you, that's right, about 2 years. And I'm sorry, Chrissy Hudson. Participants, sorry, I'm looking through. So to be on the board, so I was born and raised in Salem-Keizer area. And when I was in 3rd grade, I decided I really wanted to be a teacher. I was passionate about the growth of humanity in general. And I was blessed enough to be able to spend a full-time, really, volunteering in our local schools. And when this opportunity arose, there was a large community that was begging for a voice. And to have at the table along with everyone else. And I saw them hurting, and that didn't set right with me. And so I couldn't turn that down. So I tossed my name in, and there we are. One moment that shaped. So it was a passion of mine, honestly, to have a school, to create my own small school in life. So if I could maybe squish a lot of lives in one, I will hopefully achieve that before the end. So anyway, my passion is still that. I want everyone to understand their value. And this is a large district. It can be hard to do. That's why I think it's important that we are able to all have discussion and try to raise the kiddos up. And so summer highlight, last week, my niece was married, and it was a very nice wedding. There were a lot of things that worked against. Her mama had passed. Her father almost passed the week prior, and her father-in-law the morning of the wedding. But it happened, and it was beautiful. And it's just another reminder that we need to cherish our time with our youth and life in general, because there's so much that we miss and we don't see. And so my goal is often in life to try to figure out how I can help each individual see all aspects, not just one window, so that we can help our babies. And I think that's why we're all here. So thanks.
Hi, I'm Jolie McMahon. I've been a student advisor less than a month now. And I chose the board and district service because I've noticed throughout my time as a student in Salem-Keizer, I've met a lot of people, some people who are very extroverted like me, theater kids, etc. Oh, and also kids that are very shy and like barely speak up, and talking is their worst nightmare ever. And all those voices are very important. For me, I feel especially the kids that can't speak up. So I've chose to apply and am now a student advisor because I really do feel passionate about giving voices to those kids, because every student matters, like many of you have said. So yes, a moment that shaped how I see education is probably when I was little in elementary school. As a young child, I honestly did not like learning at all. When I went to school, I felt very different from other kids, and I did not feel engaged or smart. Like, I was like, oh, I can't ever be a smart kid. That's like what I always told myself as a little kid. But then in elementary school, the first teacher that really made me feel like I could learn, I could be in a good educational environment was my third grade teacher. And she really encouraged me to keep trying and just be the best I could be. And that changed my perspective completely, because when a teacher really cares and engages with students, it can change how they see education completely. And I know a lot of my friends have had similar experiences where, especially my quieter friends, where they don't want to talk or sit in the back of the class, but their teachers make them feel so engaged and welcome that they can talk to them and feel safe in their classrooms, which I feel is very important. So yeah, that shaped how, if you have teachers who care and staff that care a lot, it can help all students grow and become better people in general. And a highlight of my summer has been the past week I participated in an outdoors theater camp overnight for the past week, and it's been really fun. So I have to leave at 11:30 today to go to a performance for that. So, but yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I've met a lot of different kids from throughout Oregon and some from Washington even, and it's been really cool. It's middle through high school, so to get to meet all sorts of different kids and just have fun. But yeah, so thank you.
As the shy kid in class, I thank you for doing that. Jonathan McElroy, I've been with the district for about 13 months now. Why I chose service, and I think the moment in education also very similar, but I had the opportunity of working in a school that was a high school, seeing how different education could be from the experience of myself, my peers, my friends, my city. That was something that I wanted to see true and at scale. And what I saw at the time was it was an amazing transformational experience, but not something that felt like it was sustainable and scalable. And the amazing thing about education and public education is that you're trying to make transformational change at scale. And not only is that challenging, but so deeply rewarding. And to do it, and I think third most, with all the people who are so equally dedicated to it, from waking up before sunrise in the morning to service for 30 plus years. It's the people, the teachers, the staff, the students, the entire system that make this such an amazing enterprise to be in. Highlight for the summer so far, I'm hoping there's more to it left, but honestly just getting to like better understand Oregon, enjoy nature wherever we see it. We've been doing sort of just like fire pits in the backyard every evening for the last week, just to sit outside and enjoy the beautiful parts of Oregon.
My name's Ashley Stovin. I've been with the district for 3 years now. Came in with Andrea. I chose board or district service. I think I just kind of fell into it. I've been in education my whole career, so about 18 years, and I feel like K-12 is where it's at in public education. The moment I think that's shaped education for me, I didn't realize until I was a lot older and have lived some life. I loved learning. I loved school. I, too, was a shy kid, so I could take or leave the people, but I like to learn things. And so I've made my career in education, and when I was in school, things were great. When I stepped away, my life got really messy, and I struggled a lot. And I think it wasn't until I had some of that life experience where I learned just how important education is, and it kind of feels like home to me, whether I'm in it for work or actually in school. And then the summer highlight for me was going to Central Oregon for the Farewell Festival. It's like a 2 or 3 day music fest, and it was fantastic. It was warm, and there was tons of music and lots of dancing.
Buenos dias, good morning, everyone. I'm Olga Cobb, and I have been with Salem-Keizer for 26 years. Why did I choose to serve? I want to be part of systems that help change communities. And it starts with kids. It starts with how we change the trajectory of learning for kids. And this is connected to that one moment. I am the daughter of educators, so I have lots of incredible experience around education. But there's a moment when I was working really early on in my career in Salem-Keizer. I had a group of 6 students, and they were all coming from a group of migrant families that moved around, and they followed the crops to California, Oregon, and Washington. And so we lost them for 4 months at a time. And I worked really closely with them for 2 years. And they learned so much and so fast, but it was not only the dedication and the determination and the responsibility on their shoulders, but also the passion power and the control that a group of dedicated educators can have over the learning of kids, even when kids are gone for that long. And so that to me spoke about the systems that are possible for kids to learn and for kids to thrive despite any circumstances that they have going on in their lives. If we have a group of committed educators, we can make incredible things happen. So that has kept me wanting to do more, wanting to then become a principal and then become supervisor of principals and then be part of now the group of people that can create a system that works well for all the kids that we serve. And highlight for the summer, just time with my family, with my parents, and just spending that time in warm waters and a lot of sun.
I am Danielle Neves, and I have been with the district for almost 1 year. I was at this retreat last year virtually, giant head on a screen. I chose district service, and like several other folks, I'm going to connect it with number 3 as well, because I was a teacher, and I absolutely loved teaching and had a lot of really great outcomes with students in my classroom. And I also, both before I was a teacher and while I was a teacher, saw students who did not have those kinds of experiences as they moved throughout their days. And that meant to me that my impact wasn't great enough, right? I was doing really great work. I was really enjoying myself. I loved everything about teaching, but I knew it had to be possible for more students to have experiences like that. And the students should not be at the whim of a class period, a classroom, a school, to be able to reach their highest potential, right? We should be able to make and commit to and follow through on the promise to our communities and to our students that when they walk into classrooms, they're going to be able to achieve amazing things. And so that's sort of how I got to district level service, similar to Olga. I, after teaching, was a principal and then moved into district office where I worked in curriculum and instruction. And always it's been about how do we ensure that our classrooms become really effective spaces for all of our different students. And my summer 2025 highlight is actually that I am not driving a U-Haul with a car on a trailer and an 80-pound dog halfway across the country. So I'm super, this was a great summer of like, nothing really exciting has been happening. So nice to see you all.
All right, thank you all for sharing that. It was so interesting. Corgi Fest, never knew it was a thing. The Fiddler Fest, never knew that was a thing either. So, okay. And then just to hear so many people, their highlights focused around family time, which is hugely important. And then, of course, there was a pattern around the summer graduation as well. And what a great event to celebrate. I also was struck by when you talked about numbers 2 and 3 there, and those educators or people in service to kids in some way, how that became those several little moments that led you to doing this work as well. And make no mistake, the work that you do also makes a difference for kids. And those differences that are made, those are life-changing for the kids that we serve. So appreciate that. My only disappointment as a past Enchanted Forest worker who served on the shoe slide in the haunted house, I was a little disappointed Enchanted Forest was not a summer highlight, but there's still time. So maybe look forward to that. All right, we are going to be spending some time talking about the board self-assessment. And go ahead and advance one. One of the things that we want to look at is we want to spend some time looking at the individual slides. You're going to see 3 examples up here of slides. But after looking at these examples, what we're really going to do is dig into this in a more thorough manner. And we're going to work through a protocol that you can spend some time individually looking at this and generating some thoughts on it. And then we're going to move into small group work, and then we're going to do some reporting out. But you can see that you have the last 3 years of assessment data here. And this one happens to point out the board as whole cultivated a long-range vision for education through periodic strategic planning and annual goal setting with the superintendent. So we're not going to spend time on that one in particular, other than to call it out and see that there's been improvement here. And I think that's one of the things that you're going to see. You're going to see a pattern of improvement on a lot of these as you dig into the data. That's one we wanted to highlight for just a second. If we could advance slide one. All right. Observing the board focus on governance policies. That's what this one is all about. And then the next one there, Jonathan. Thank you. And then this one has to do with the monitoring of the policies that need updating and are taking place. So while we're not going to dwell on these three, what I am going to do is walk you through a quick protocol. So if you could advance one more, there we go. We're going to do this 3-2-1 protocol. So you're going to have 10 minutes as an individual, and during that 10 minutes, focus on what are those 3 things that stand out for you in the data. Now, you're going to see patterns, you're going to see some things emerging, but as you look at the data, highlight 3 things that are really important for you that stand out. Yes, you have this packet in front of you as well. So you go ahead and take a look at that packet. At the end of 10 minutes, I'm going to call time, and we're going to put you into small groups. And during that time, we're going to ask you to identify some questions that the data raises for you as a group, not as individuals anymore, but as a smaller group. And then also for you to identify an action that the board can take as a result of the data and the patterns that you're seeing. And then we're going to ask you to share out in your small groups, and then we're going to do some group planning from there. We clear on your first 10 minutes?
I have a question.
Oh.
I'm sorry. So it appears that these are kind of out of order, or I don't understand the order. Are we analyzing the entire data packet, or is there specific things we're focusing on?
Now, go ahead and take a look at all of the data, and then just highlight those 3 things that are most important for you.
To respond to that question, though, I do think I can offer a few pro tips as you look at this packet. So especially for our new board members who didn't necessarily see the full survey, the first half are questions that you are responding to about your individual performance. And that's why they're not showing up in numerical order. So the first half are your aggregate individual responses. Then you'll see that there's a point where there's a transition slide to board as a whole. And those are the assessments you are making as board members about the overall board's performance. And then my final reading pro tip for you in this packet is, how much time do we have, Mike?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. The last 2 pages are open-ended responses, which will take a little bit longer to read. So I just want you to know that they are there and they are rich.
All right, we'll check back with you in 10 minutes. about 3 minutes left. All right, I hope you had a chance to dig into that a little bit. We are going to ask, at this point, we've taken the liberty of dividing our board members up into groups. We're going to ask the cabinet or executive team, you form your own group and do the same exercise. So ignore the asterisk down at the bottom. That should, cabinet, please join your own group. So here's what we're going to ask you to do is when you get together in a group, we've got some chart paper back there, and we're going to ask that you do a couple different things. You identify 2 questions that the data raises for you, and then the other thing is 1 action that the board can take to start to move forward based on the assessment results, okay? And we're going to ask you to put that on chart paper and then be prepared to share out. Instead of the 15 minutes, which we have up there, we're a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to check in with you in 10 minutes, and we'll see if you're ready to go at that point. And so if we could have 1 person from each group grab some chart paper and some pens, and then we'll ask you to 2 questions the data raises, as well as 1 action the board can take. And I'll put that up there in just a minute after you've seen who's in your group. Oh, we've got Lisa in group 3.
Yeah. All right. I just want to clarify that Lisa's supposed to be in group 3 instead I have Jennifer.
All right, if you go ahead and jump into your groups, that would be great, and I'll check with you in 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
find it really hard to see this. It's too small.
Or you can just write it there and just share it.
How do I work?
My handwriting is not the best, but what's that? Oh, your copy. Evidence. What are the three things?
Yeah, that's what I was, one of the first ones I put was the long range goals.
Oh, is that what you're doing? Or- No, no. Yeah. Out of this package, what are the things that we saw, right?
Just bringing you some things.
Oh, thank you.
So, I mean, one of the things I noticed is that
BG one?
maybe 4 of these are about
Write it out or
board
just put the,
monitoring, and I have no idea what that is.
I'd be happy to answer some of those things. Board monitoring is like board providing uniform oversight of and the district activities in terms of data. Let's say third grade reading, are we getting into?
To me, it shows that our goal setting with the superintendent are very effective.
So it's just like
goal setting.
getting information from data.
Yeah, making sure that are we able to perform that oversight function? So out of this data, what are some other things that both this one and also the qualitative data? These are the prompts, these are the ones that you're giving, right?
So you noticed, Jocelyn, that in the board code area, you saw a recurring.
Like monitoring.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you're right.
And
That's something that stood out to you.
Yeah.
It's a consistent call for
Board
board monitoring.
yeah, I would like to see board monitoring.
Is very
Rigorous
effective.
board monitoring.
So, so the question, if I understand, is like board can improve on oversight monitoring. Is that what your understanding?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Based on the data also, no?
BG four and
So can I write that as one?
Yeah.
Board monitoring.
You have some.
Yeah, one thing that stood out to me, was on,
it didn't change.
how well is the board hold
I say, needs to be.
Yeah.
And,
So it was all like more focused on here and now, what our capability. So I think we did the board strategy plan was 23-24, and then we developed on the long term.
So then what this tells me
I
then
would
is that
say,
after
that
2
we
years,
need to
like, that wasn't happening.
Once it's settled down, it
work on,
Yeah.
work towards a faithful compliance.
we started the board here and then we built.
So that's something that I noticed, it went from, mediocre to, maybe like the C plus B.
Crisis
And then it
mode
went straight to A's. So I
Yeah,
think
the crisis
A
mode.
commitment.
That's the rule.
So I just noticed that.
Anything else that's long term goal,
I mean,
call it
it's
as
sort
long
of-
term goal.
It sort of goes with,
Compliance.
it sort of goes with the question, if there were quite literally no ones or twos
there. If those are the only, if that one, like, vote for two is the only one or two in the entire, like, self,
He's out of these 4 people who are continuing over the days. So one chose 3, one
well,
chose 4.
my thing is like, you can all see 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. It's the only two, and there's no one. So if we are doing so well, how come as a whole is like 2?
In my mind, we improved significantly. Having one, and then we had a 4. So I would
These
say.
are the last year. I mean, this is the 22-23. It's a totally different cohort is measuring.
So 2,
That is this year.
that's
Previous
that's
one.
this year.
We were more proactive than
But
we were
there's
reactive.
only a single 2 in
And we were more proactive than reactive.
So how does that translate? How are we getting 3s and 4s and everything? It's like if my grade was 3s and 4s, and I just see it again. It just doesn't translate.
Okay. So, any other bigger themes that you're able to pick out as a whole, or the qualitative feedback?
BG4 and BG6.
So one area I agree with you.
Just need 3, right?
I don't know. How many, do we do all of them or just 3?
Just 3 is fine. Yeah. 2 questions of data advices and 1 action.
And then we need an action.
Yeah. 2 questions and 1 action.
Out of this qualitative response, anything stood out for you?
Not for me.
So action.
I mean,
On that one.
I saw a lot of, like, focusing on students.
BG4 and BG6
Like, that was.
seem to be 2 areas we focus on.
Yeah. One of the things that comes out of this is that using board communication and board trying to listen to different perspectives, family and student centered dialogue. Because some communities family also you have to take that time. So
Transparency, communication, listening, and considering all board members.
so that way we truly capture diversity, the sense of diversity.
On these
That's what
goals
stood out.
and incorporate them in our goals for
7 minutes and 38 seconds. Is that what it is?
our goals.
Okay, so tell me, out of the qualitative response, these are the prompts. Questions.
We good.
Got about 2 minutes to wrap up. These are the questions that were sent out to us.
Right, this is okay.
Yeah, these are the
We didn't say nothing about those.
I didn't get very far. What is the short cost?
out of this qualitative thing. So can we come down to action?
So, right here they say, we need to develop stronger ways in which to engage in dialogue about the policy.
Can we say out of the open-ended thing, do you want to
Better
add
utilize
a
Robert's
be a team there?
Yes, I'm still circulating my socks.
Need a unified message when meeting with the public.
One thing that really stood out to me, out of this question.
Do we need to add that?
I don't know, these are just, I'm just reading through some of the things.
I think we just need to read things.
I don't know,
but up there, they're gonna ask us to summarize some key takeaways and suggestions. So I'll just something else be
Gotcha, okay. I can write that down. I ran out of room.
The second thing, they give you about the 2 weeks leave, sometimes it's first meeting and then comes up for the next month. So there are in between those sessions for the way in which the whole business can be done.
I appreciate you explaining to me how it's done. I mean, right now, we're so new, but I think that is when we got the questions and the action.
Yeah.
So is that not to say no, but especially if people are
Okay. So it gives you a chance to deep dive.
Yeah. If you could start heading back this way, that'd be great.
What's our next?
Keeping fair.
Okay, good job. Oh, careful, your coffee. I took the coffee now. I was more worried about very good. Take your plate.
All right, as we start to transition here, back into the larger group, I'm going to ask a couple things. We're going. That better? As we start to transition here, going to ask a couple things, and we're going to ask Ashley to take us through just access to diligent. So I think one of the things for us to be mindful of is some of the people that were looking at this data, they're brand new to all of this. They don't have the context. It's numbers that they're looking at. And so we want to provide some context, and Ashley can take you on a quick tour of that. And then when it comes to presenting out the findings, we're going to ask that you let the newest board member be the presenter. All right? Or staff. So, this is pick on Paul Day. Sorry. Okay. Ashley?
Okay. So does everyone have their devices? Student advisors, your training is coming up, so you have paper copies of everything. I apologize. We will go through this offline. Board members, if you have your devices, you should go to your bookmarked Diligent tab that we've all saved, and then log in using your SKPS email and your password that you set up. And that should bring you to the home page. When you're on the home page, you'll want to go on the furthest left toolbar down to where it looks like an icon of books. It's the document library. And then you'd want to select board member resources. And in the board member resources section, we've got 3 folders in there. For our discussion today, you'll want to click on the board policies file, and then they're all listed in there. Board staff linkages, those are the BSLs. The BGs, which are in here a lot, is the school board governance folder. So that's the one those are the 2 big ones you'll want to use today. And let me know if you have any questions and I can walk through.
I was going to say maybe the student reps, if you can look over somebody's computer.
All right, any questions for Ashley before we get started? Or Ashley, any final thoughts? All right, very good. We will go ahead and ask the groups to report out at this point. And you can see up there just one more time the 2 questions that the data raises for you, and then 1 action step that the board can take. Why don't we go ahead and start over here? Lisa, Chrissy, Jolie, your group.
Well, you may wanna, so, do we get to show our charts? I have to like do the number or do the? You can see that, thank you. All right, so our observations or our questions on the data were kind of put together, or they're 2 observations, 2 questions, but they're kind of akin to each other. So sort of looking at like well, we observed some positive trends in the data over time. And so curious about what led to, or the perceptions of what led to those positive trends. And also it was very interesting to notice that on the individual responses, they were generally closer together, but then the board as a whole, it was spread over that time. So just some curiosities that we had there about why is that. And then some actions. We did 3 because we might be overachievers in this group, who knows? But they are also a theme of really reaching out and listening deeply. One is reaching out to community in new and different ways. Doing that as a board, I think, would be incredibly helpful. And then also some deeper listening, particularly to students. Students are often given surveys or different ways to provide feedback. And for us as a board to really engage with that and really discuss what are some of the policies that we could take action on or really refine or hold up in new ways to help move in that direction. And then a simple one here, engage in dialogue, which really is reaching out, goes back to the first one, really engaging in dialogue with each other, and then also with families and students and constituencies so that we can, again, really understand the community and what the community needs. Anything else, team?
Surveys, you did it well. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Especially you, Jonathan, you did great.
Right.
You're a star. Everybody should have a dog.
Okay, how about we go over here?
Okay. So new board members, right? Is Jackson considered a board member?
You guys can decide who between the 2 of you. Both of you.
Rock, paper, scissors, ready?
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So,
Awkward, but I think we're gonna need to get you closer to the mic and with the button push.
I can push the button.
So we noticed that in a lot of those free responses, there was about growth opportunities that the board has. There's a lot of board monitoring and oversight that could be improved. We also noticed that overall, in goal setting, it improved long-term, so over the years. Our action is engage with preparation and come prepared to the meetings. Because we noticed that that's something that was valued in the survey.
That one's good. Oh, okay, good. So Cynthia and I worked together, and we looked a lot at the data, the research based on from previous years before. Oh. And so the first one we looked at is the goal settings, how much of an improvement it was from previous years. If you look at the data, it's a great and significant improvement. Then we looked at some other areas where needed an improvement from the where I outlined them in 4 and 6. And then we just be more proactive, and we were a lot better with being proactive on BG7 than we were the previous year. So a lot of it, we looked at the data's past years where we got our information, and then we read over the open-ended questions, and then we were talking about improving on the Robert Rules of Orders, and then our action item was to improve on B4 and B6 based on the data from previous years.
Thank you. And our executive team?
That would be me again. All right, our chart pack is over here in Bob's beautiful orange handwriting there as well that you can read well. So first off, I think, one observation of the team is the executive team felt that the engagement with the community and the students has been done well by the board over the past years as well, but the data shows a continued want to grow that as well, which I think is very healthy for us as well. First one is, how might the district's monitoring reports better support the board's goals for more deeper open discussion? There was a theme in here of more dialogue that the board had as well. And so the question is, how can we as the team, those reports we're bringing to you, are we bringing the right information to you? Is it digestible? Is it leading to questions for you to probe deeper into how the district is operating? As seen on the previous one too as well, the BG 4 and 6 results seem to be a place where there was a bit of a dip. So the question is, what's driving that? What are we seeing in there as well? And again, is it a question of, is there open dialogue, or is the policy, the governance being an issue that gets in the way of folks speaking their minds and actively engaging? And then for an action, we think just sometimes it's hard in an open setting there to, of the full board, to ask a lot of questions. There's things on the agenda. So a possible action the board could take is to set up small group interactions with the staff to build more knowledge around those subjects before we get to the session in the room here as a full round.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and advance one. All right. One of the things that we want to talk about before we get into our short-term and our long-term actions that we're going to take as a result of this assessment data is we want to ask ourselves about the evaluation tool itself. And when you consider the evaluation tool that you currently have in place, of which you've just looked at the data, I think the question to ask is, for you all, is it asking the right questions, and is it collecting the right data? And if the answer is there's room for improvement in both of those areas, let's have that discussion now so that we can start to identify those and take a look at what some edits or potential improvements for the assessment data, or for the self-assessment tool might be. So let's just have a quick open discussion here, and just be mindful that we want to share airtime with everybody, but we'll just go ahead and feel free to speak your mind and to chime in as is appropriate. But let's start with the first one. Do you feel like this tool is asking the right questions? And if not, what is the information you would like to be collecting some information on?
So I'm not sure about the second part, how it can be adjusted, but I noticed that it was actually one of this group's topics, is that the board as a whole questions were usually more spread out. There were a couple more twos in pretty much every single one. And I noticed that in the individual assessments, there was only I'm pretty sure there were no ones and only 1 2. and all the rest were 3s and 4s. And I feel like it just doesn't translate. There's something happening there. Yeah.
So thoughts on, is there a way to adjust the question? And very, very good observation, by the way. It's something that we noticed as we were prepping for this. Are there some questions, or is there a way of collecting data that might make the results more similar, or to get a trend that we're looking for? And that's not just for Jackson, that's a question for everybody.
Yeah, one observation is, when you ask those questions, you ask us to number. It would be helpful if there is a qualitative piece attached to it saying, why did you choose this number? And what would you like to see so that you will score 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 4 or whatever it is? Because it's like asking the question in a different way. What would it take for you to give the best possible score? And giving the qualitative piece there rather than separately at the end of a Google thing, because then it doesn't really, I don't know why somebody made this number versus.
Thank
you. The survey itself is pretty technical. It's like all linked back to the policy statements. And when we first started, there was a real value in that, I felt, because we had work to do to build our capacity around the policy statements. But now I do wonder if for you all, and therefore for all of us, if the pieces that really explore how effective your collaboration is are missing. We could be a technically perfect governance body, but still not truly collaborative, and the survey wouldn't be the right one to tell us that.
Other ideas on this first part?
I don't know that I have a concrete idea, but I agree with Director Chandagiri and with you, Superintendent. I think, as taking the survey, it's sort of like, you sort of think sort of this big umbrella, right? But it takes time and discipline to go into each one of the policies and really understand, why am I choosing that number? And so finding a way to really tease that out, like what's the why behind? Because, and looking at the data, that's where my mind goes. Like, well, why did this one person choose a 2? Like, what was going on for that individual, so that we can better understand the impact of the policy. So getting some of that level at a more granular, I think, would be really helpful. Secondly, I'm also wondering, because there are lots of policies that we are responsible for and are stewards for, but if there's an opportunity for us, without letting go of the whole, maybe choosing a couple of the policies that we really want to work on and are very focused and intentional, might allow us to make some more headway in that more positive trend.
For me, I'd like to see the assessment at the beginning of the year and make notes throughout the year, rather than get it at the end of the year to score it, or to make my assessment. That would help me. And also, I think it would help us as a board, because we can address those things during the year and not wait until the end of the year to find out that maybe we should have been doing things differently.
I love that idea.
Oh, it's wisdom. 46 years. 46 years.
Thank God we are able to capture it.
Do you want to go ahead, Chris? So I'm just gonna kind of echo what's already been said, and that as a new board member and not really understanding a whole bunch of the context that went into these answers, Director Chandagiri was gracious enough to help give Jackson and I some of that context during the exercise, but not knowing, seeing. I don't know what the meat is in between the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it was hard to, I think, at least Director Harnish said, difficult to identify trends or really know what those differences in the answers mean as a new set of eyes looking in for the first time.
Can I add one small piece to it? I think this tool that we use to collect our feedback, if it allows us to somewhere measure what is the policy governance versus what is the track in which the board stays versus the district superintendent stays. If there is a way to measure that, sometimes I see there's fuzzy boundary that is not, it probably may be affecting the scoring, number one. The second thing is because, we say executive limitation as the guardrails, but we don't completely say what it fills in between. It gives so much of leeway, and that's like a very open-ended thing, especially when I was a new person in the board. So that would be where somewhere we have to capture it and say, how does that translate? How do we measure that? It is not, because that seems to be one recurring theme in which either it leads to satisfaction or dissatisfaction in the community, the board, etc. So that's one piece. And the second piece is how these board, BGs, BSLs interact with each other. That our current measurement doesn't pick up that. Because they are all not discrete measures. They are like interactive measures in the sense, there's no way for me to know if, say, BSL 1, you score low, how will it affect other BGs, right? So that's another area. I think we reached a level of board maturity, I would like to call it, that it would be helpful to kind of start measuring that, because we do have so many interactive areas going on, like whether union bargaining, financial uncertainty, something you read in the newspaper that hits the fan, and all kinds of things keep happening over the year. It's like changing oil while you're still driving your car. You still keep the long-term goal, but you deal with the day-to-day ups and downs. I don't know if I'm making sense.
The response, yes, sorry, I held it for so long and then I, just again, echo all that. If you need to hear the vote from each of us individually, I really appreciate that. I appreciate the discussion for the time, because that is the biggest thing that I feel like the board has been missing and lacking this whole time, is that development, and that's where we can move on. And I feel like it's part of our diligence that we should be trying to achieve to set this up for the next board and people here for your struggles as well, trying to do your work and understand the demands of the board and accountability, and along with the transparency that we're always trying to represent and such. So I think given that time with you all, and in groups individually, will advance us forward many steps. I love the board open-ended responsibilities. It seemed, this is great feedback. This was the one spot for that feedback that you're like, oh, well, we took this little evaluation, but it's like a window into greatness, but how do we get to those next steps? So this is a little bit of that. So ideas and collaboration, where otherwise all year we don't have the opportunity to drop this in. And it's so neat. The reason why this is a good thing, the retreats always, is because we see that, hey, we're all talking about the same thing. Can we pick up the discussion and keep moving? No, it feels like we are kind of at a lull state then, and then we're just listening to feedback from the district and nodding or not. So to do our jobs and what we take time out to do and honor our oaths, this is giving us the greatest tools, and thank you for all giving that feedback and sharing the same. I really am excited and look forward to this. Thank you.
So can I give a concrete example? Let's say a board has a policy that they are trying to pass. The board doesn't have any mechanism to authentically get a student or a student focus group to weigh in on that, or a family group to weigh in on that. Because then in a policy governance, the board may pass a policy and say, district superintendent, go get that done, and here are the executive limitations. But there's no way we have a mechanism to kind of get the thing. Because most of that is done by the district. And so I think that's the student article that was sent in the thing, how we can get authentically student voice in. So there are different examples that has been cited in that article, which I read. So I was just struck thinking, okay, the board is doing it, but hit and miss. Some will go connect with some parts of the family, some will connect somebody else. But other than the two student representative, the board doesn't directly have, it's not been kind of vetted with the student committee as an advisory to the board.
Yeah, I think the next two agenda items are going to get us where we need to be. All of these comments that are being made around opportunities for engagement or input or just let's have a discussion about this, these next two agenda items are leading towards that. And we're going to have the opportunity to do some brainstorming on what would those engagement opportunities look like, what does a solid dialogue within a public meeting look like, and what's allowable under the policy governance model. So we're definitely getting there.
I was just going to reiterate access to the board to some of the student surveys, and like you said, access to the, maybe sitting in those meetings and stuff so we can hear, because we're here to represent them and we don't have that hands-on. And then also when we were talking about honing in on policies and discussion, collaboratively deciding on which policies that we want to hone in on and focus rather than it being chosen for us would be preferable also. Thank you.
I know we're running a little long, so I'll be brief on this one. I just want to reiterate the overwhelming feedback on the executive team side. What you're seeing from us is a desire for you to rigorously monitor our work related to student outcomes. It's almost the only thing that all of us wrote about. And policy governance used powerfully is an incredibly incisive governance model. You've said there are 5 things that matter, and what you're hearing from the staff is saying, show us that it matters to you by asking hard questions about how we're doing and what we're doing. This is a skill that we grow into because last year was our first year of monitoring reports. Remember back to the board meeting where we did the practice version? Well, the practice version was good, but it's hard to know how to apply it until you've seen it. Now you have been through a full year of monitoring, and I just want to really emphasize that we want to know how to make our process work for you and make it feel like it is a valuable use of your time because it is the results that you said mattered most.
That is the perfect transition here as we, let me just do a quick summary. Jonathan, is it possible to refresh so that the notes that we've taken on slides 12 and 13 show, oh, look at them there, right there. Very good. So one of the things we've been doing is we've been taking notes on your conversation, and not only for the types of data and the types of questions that are asked, but also the action items that we can take as a result of this conversation. And what you'll see there is that there's a number of easy patterns to identify. More opportunity for dialogue and engagement and input. Make sure we're getting student input as well. Opportunity to reflect. Cynthia's idea that I got a number of head nods. So what we'll do is we will keep gathering notes during these next couple agenda items, and then we will share this information with the superintendent team and the board leadership, and that will result in the opportunity to revamp some of the assessment, the self-assessment tool that will come back to you to take a look at and to have a discussion on. Okay. In addition, you will also have the opportunity here in a couple of agenda items to start weighing in on what does effective dialogue look like? How do we dialogue or provide input or engagement opportunities in a way that's meeting your needs as well? So that's coming. Take quick, yep. 10-minute break. Let's go ahead and move that up.
First, and then we'll come back to do the next agenda.
Chair, does that work for you?
Yeah. I just had one quick question. How do we make sure that everyone has dialogue at our meetings instead of 1 or 2 people?
Very good. That'll be part of our discussion.
Thank you.
All right. It is 9:47. Come back at 10. Does that work for people? All right. Thank you.
Okay. So I have have been so interested in listening to our discussions because I can feel the ways that we're actually discussing policy governance, but we're not quite naming it that way. And so I'm going to actually just spend about 10 minutes. For some of you, it's going to be a refresher. Actually, for our new board members, it's going to be a very recent refresher. But the reason I do think that it's good to go over this is that you are the only district in Oregon that has policy governance. It is an incredibly powerful tool for governance, but only if every board member knows how to use its authority. In the absence of knowing how to or choosing to use its authority, it can feel quite mysterious. And I think a lot of what I have heard from you over the course of the last couple of years, what I've even heard from you as you debrief my evaluation, and what we've heard today is about looking for the ways to make this governance model do the work that you want it to do. Can you advance? This is a slide, and just click one more time. Whoever is running it. There we go. This is a slide that some of you saw the first time 2 years ago, and you might have seen it again last year. I'm just going to walk through on that gray column very quickly on the right side, and then I'm going to actually ask us to move over and look at the policy that most clearly defines this. So under policy governance, the board is absolutely the most powerful unit, and that is because you can devise a policy for anything that you can get a passing vote on. Anything that would be excellent, anything that could be tragic, you can write a policy for it and thus make it true. This is why it's a kind of democratic process inside of a democratic body. There are two sides. It's bookended. So on one side, and this is what I think Dr. Chandragiri was saying with the bookends, on the guardrails. On one side is that you define what success looks like with absolute clarity. And you have. There's 5 goals. They are measurable. There is basically not a single leader in our system, from the superintendent to the newest assistant principal, who does not know what success looks like in Salem-Keizer. And that's because you were exceptionally clear on it. The other side of this is that you get to define the methods the district may not use to pursue those goals. Those are the executive limitations. So you can see that red box, the 12 policies that explicitly define what the superintendent and district may not do. When you guys get our executive limitation reports, I just want to emphasize that it is a very rigorous process because it compels us, and specifically me, in writing every year to affirm, provide evidence that we are not violating any element of that policy, and affirm that we have not. That's why those executive limitations are the other side of the results policy. I'm going to ask those of you who are in diligent, who I think is now everyone, to go into BSL2. So in order to find that, what you would do is go into board policies, and then go into the folder that says, I think it says board staff linkages, and then click on the second one. As you make your way there, I just want to read number 3 to you. As long as the superintendent operates within the board's result and executive limitations policies, the superintendent is authorized to take all actions he or she deems appropriate to achieve the board's result policy. So if there is an enormous amount of space between results and limitations, you have delegated it entirely to our team. If there's only a small amount of space, then what you've said is achieve the results, but also, by the way, we're going to tell you how to achieve the results. And what you're looking for as a board is establishing that sweet spot, one that you believe reflects the demands and expectations of the community, of your own sense of integrity as an elected official, and then defining those with the clarity that allows our team to operate, knowing exactly what you meant. Policy governance is powerful because no one's guessing. No one is guessing. It needs to be written in a way that is perfectly clear to all members of this executive team. And if we cease to be on this team tomorrow and 9 new people showed up, they should have equal clarity. But this is why it's such a responsibility for a board, because you have to use it. Some of these executive limitations were last written in 2007. And so, Director Hudson said, I would like to talk about revisions to policies and have some ability to be in dialogue about which ones we revise and what we revise. We totally agree with that. And it's partially because we can do this incredible work together, but only if we own our roles. This is also the reason that the last part of the conversation got a little vague and sticky. And the next one is so important, because when the board wishes to have conversations about issues that are actually clearly delegated to the district and the superintendent, the question becomes, how? Let's use a very concrete example. Because your policy governance, you will not be passing a cell phone policy. Every other school district in Oregon will be. But you won't, because you have delegated that authority to us. But that doesn't mean, by definition, that there should be no discussion about cell phones. We just haven't figured that balancing act out right yet. And I think that's part of what's leaving you feeling at times like you don't have the ability to represent either your personal views on issues that matter to the community, or raise issues that matter to the community. But this isn't a governance model problem. This is that we haven't gotten the dynamic quite right at the dais and with the agenda. And with work, those are easily solvable problems, which is what the rest of this retreat is really about. Very quickly, going back to this slide, just to be clear, again, if you have not claimed it as your role, and you have not named it as a prohibition, the decisions fall automatically to the district. Now, this in theory is something that an executive officer could abuse, but they would do it to their own detriment. That doesn't mean that we run around making a bunch of decisions and confer with no one just because you've given it to us the right to do so. If we did that, what you should do as a body is start to circumscribe our privileges. Because that would mean that we're not actually exercising that privilege with the kind of care and integrity that this board should expect. And that's why when we are making decisions that are ours, I will come to all of you ahead of time and say, here's the issue. Here's what's coming next. Here's the feedback we've collected, and what are your thoughts? And that too can be strengthened. Going on down to 3, 4, and 5, under policy governance, the superintendent is your only employee, which is common in other governance models. But what is unique here is that the superintendent's performance is identical to the performance of the district. So what that really means, applied rigorously, is that me personally and our team, if we hit 3 of 5 goals, that is our performance. And I love that about this model because it's so clean. It's so clear that our student outcomes are our only job, and it doesn't matter how charismatic we are or how much individuals might like us. None of that matters if the outcomes aren't there. And that's why you've seen a superintendent evaluation that's so heavily weighted to outcomes. You don't even need open response on most of my evaluation because it is either a yes or a no. Have we met the goal and made progress, or have we not? On number 4, you'll see this is why it is therefore so important to our team that the board goals are monitored rigorously. We put an enormous amount of time into prepping our teams for those monitoring reports. Olga and Danielle carry the lion's share of that work, and there are many background meetings leading up to, for example, here is our progress on third grade reading. And that's why we're so hungry for your feedback and your thoughts on it. The executive limitation reports are in the consent agenda? No. They're just in the report section on a schedule all through the year. If you want to know how we believe we're doing in effective engagement of the community, we provide evidence of what we've done. And if we think we have had no violations, we proactively affirm that. But here again, if you don't agree with that, if you have a question about that, that report is the place you raise it. Because it was your rule that you said it could not be broken. And this is how the balance of power gets centered in a way that allows an organization to be highly effective and focused, but still exist effectively inside of a democratic structure. The reason I'm sharing this with you all is that I believe in this governance model, and I want you to know how to use it to maximum impact. Because I believe it only works if everybody knows how to use the tools of power and influence. If they are secret, then they are not real tools. And so that leads us to number 5. The board's most important responsibility is monitoring these 2 dimensions of performance. Are we making progress? And are we violating any of the rules that you said we may not violate? I think I'm going to pause there because I believe that was probably my 10 minutes of quick refresh on policy governance. And just actually probably ask our facilitators if we have 5 minutes for discussion on that. Okay, then I will turn it over to the board for your own discussion on this.
So I'll jump in. Thank you. So that's where you said the end of that discussion where it left off got sticky. I think you were talking about where and how we would work on the time to collaborate to move that. Okay, so then I just want to reiterate the idea of just if it's feasible to make time for maybe groups like where we can meet together. If we enhance, with board members. So if we kind of have meetings together, not more than our 3, but kind of rotate amongst how many we have. And then if we can kind of sit down with the executive team for, I think that would help a lot of us with the recap and hone in to focus moving forward, but also for the newbies, the new board members to kind of feel fully equipped with their feet under them on what's happening in the district and empowered to speak and ask those questions, because that's what I see of a lack of empowerment and confidence sometimes. So that's all, just that one piece. So if no one has anything else to add, if we talk about how we would get that achieved, make time for all of us to be able to talk and move forward on what you're discussing, then I would be grateful.
I think what would help me and maybe others is if you could mock up an example, like use an actual issue and mock it up, because when you say meet with groups, I don't quite know who the group is, and so I think I just need a little bit more detail, but maybe an example will help all of us kind of follow your recommendation.
Well, for starters, and it sounds like we have started with maybe a change in when we do create the agenda. So rotating in different board members to help and sit in with that and kind of if it's a board decision that needs to come to the agreement to be able to do that again or not, I think that would be immensely helpful. And that would be a start right there. And that would achieve a lot because it's already time that we're meeting as it is, so it wouldn't be anything extra, and kind of, again, reevaluate and see how we all feel as a collective, as a board, moving forward and adapt as we go. I thought that Paul had brought up possible discussion of maybe, any executive team members. I know you're so busy, but whether it becomes appropriate for moments when they can participate in that. I don't know how much they interact in agenda making or planning, but as time goes and discussion goes, the possibility, I just want to put this on record that I would like to keep this open, and in my fear that a door might close, to have their knowledge and discussion to them accessible. So whether it's feasible for them to drop into periodic agenda meetings or whatever it is, when those different challenges arise as a district that we need to talk about, like getting their feedback, just kind of the more personal one-on-ones. I liked it when we were able to collaborate with them in breakout groups in the 2 years ago, this meeting, for example. Do you know what I mean? Just more time with them and hearing their thoughts as far as decision-making and planning, only as needed.
I think I'm going to actually just add one comment here. In the board policies, you will find the board policy that addresses how agendas get set. And so we're just going to use this as a way to talk about this very concrete example to talk about this. What it says is that board leadership sets board meeting agendas, and on a rotating basis, other members join, which is what we have adhered to. If it is the will of the board to change how board agendas get set, then you must change that policy. And that is something that the body can do. But the reason, Chrissy, that I want to address that part here is because sometimes I feel that the board thinks they need to convince me of something that's set in policy. But I am actually not one of the power poles in setting that topic and making the decision. And if that is something that needs to be advanced, it goes to the body through the mechanism defined in the policy. And there's lots of other things we can do to address more access to executive team members for small group discussions. That was a second part of your comment. But with that, I will hand it over. I think there were 2 hands over here.
I was just gonna say, we've already received the rotation of board members to attend the leadership. You got that? Okay, all right, yeah. I just wanted to make sure you had received it.
I like this this governance model. It's almost like you hire a main contractor to build your home, and then the contractor will have subcontractors, kind of have all your dealing with the main contractor. And you tell them, okay, I want a home with 3 bedroom and whatever else. Here is the budget. Stay within that. At each stage, you tell me how much you have achieved so that I can disperse the resources accordingly and make sure the completion date. Kind of I use that as a way to understand this thing. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it. So I don't go directly talk to the electric subcontractor or the plumbing subcontractor. But having said that, when a policy comes up or when it's time for me to vote, I feel that not only the board setting the outcome as the target and defining the executive limitation, but I also try to kind of ask myself, does the board have an informed oversight responsibility to make sure that the building is kind of built at different stages and within the timeline? Is it staying within the budget? Are we following the other board executive limitation? Are we following the federal laws or state laws or civil rights of different groups? Sometimes when there is a disparity. So I kind of start thinking in terms of, is this, does it meet the civil rights standard, or does it meet the equity standard, or whatever? So I really kind of think of it more, not like each EL as an isolation, but how they interact with each other when a report is presented by the superintendent. That's how I kind of do it. Quickly in my mind, I kind of run it and say, okay, what about Title VI? What about Title VII? If there is an employee, consent calendar is a good place, or if there is an employee issue. So that's how I have found helpful to kind of use, not in separately, but interactively. And then constantly keep in mind, are we staying within the budget? Because that's an important responsibility of the board oversight. It may not directly say BG pertaining to building or BG pertaining to reading goals, but you have to constantly ask, are we kind of blowing through the money? Will we be left with some left till the end of the year or whatever it is? So that's how I find this helpful. Sometimes it becomes a little fussy because we may pick 4 or 5 goals. In the board meeting, they may bring that up. But I appreciate when you give me that one-to-one time where I can bring other things, because there are a lot of issues keep bubbling up along the way. The cell phone is a good example. Personally, I have a different view than governor. Whether you like it or not, we follow the executive orders. That's at least a temporary law of the land, whether it's from the president or governor, it's the same. Now, having said that, I still have to deal with the families and students, and the idea is so I may ask a question, how are we engaging the families and students? Are we getting full buy-in? Is there a student voice so that the students understand or the families understand and kind of mitigate the questions? So to me, that's like performing an oversight function. That's the reason I ask these questions. It's not just that. So there are different ways to use this model, in my opinion, at least. Sometimes we may have to, the way the board reports are presented, when you present, here is an idea I'm thinking, is intentionally kind of add a bit to presentation saying, yes, this is what we have achieved in terms of 3rd grade reading or whatever it is. And we are complying with other BGs or other executive limitation in terms of this meets the federal law or civil rights law, the state requirement. So that will help us constantly be aware how we are still reaching that goal, or we are short of reaching the goal, but staying within the guardrails. So that's one way to kind of, at least that would be helpful for me, at least I can say for myself.
Two very quick responses to that. One, our team has been reflecting on your steady feedback that the boardroom would be even more effective if there were more open dialogue about issues of concern and interest of the community. And so one of our reflections is that for things, and cell phone is an extreme but an easy example right now. It's delegated to us to make the decision, but we can still bring it as a report to the board, which enables board dialogue. And in it, to go back to your point, Dr. Chandragiri, we can also work harder to do things like say, for example, Executive Limitation 3 says the superintendent shall not fail to appropriately involve stakeholders in an advisory capacity on any important issue. So this is where you're right. These aren't freestanding. It's this web that sits behind everything. And every time we make a major decision, we are asking ourselves, not just, is this the right decision? We're saying, are we meeting all of the executive limitation requirements when we make it? And so this gives you guys a chance to say, when we report on our cell phone decision, for you to say, our executive limitations require that you engage the community. Tell us what you did and tell us what you heard. And then you have the ability to discuss that topic at the table. But I think because we have underutilized reports as a body, we have accidentally deprived you of the dialogue that you've been asking for. And I think this is something that we can change in the way we design our agendas that will fill in a missing piece for the board.
Mainly focusing on broad areas. That's because, otherwise you'll get caught in the weeds. My goal is not to kind of get so entangled in the weeds. The broad area is, like as you said, and also, are we staying within the budget? Are we breaking the law? Are we having an open, transparent process? And if we can have that discussion, then we can have the similar discussion in the community, saying, look, the district hasn't broken any law. They're following the law of the land. They're staying within the guardrails of the budget. And these are the family groups or student groups they have contacted. If there is somebody else who is left out, here are some ways in which we may be able to fill in the gap and engage. That's it. All right.
I think we're in a spot here where we are, I think people are in agreement. We want to get to this discussion about what the board involvement in key work looks like, what the dialogue looks like, and we do want to get to that. We want, if you would skip to slide 21, Jonathan. We're going to ask, actually, go back one. There it is. We're just going to ask Andrea and Cabinet to talk about the recommendations for these policies.
So this is actually a perfect segue from Director Hudson's comment. So these are, we've gone through all of the results and executive limitations and read them all carefully. And, you know, some were written in 2007, but they were good then and they're good now. So not every old executive limitation is on here. What you can see is the list of the policies. That LR is last revised date. And based on conversations that we've had with you all and you've had amongst yourselves, we're proposing this set for review and revision this year. It takes some time. You know, everyone requires time and thought, a first reading, and then a vote. So this is a pretty ambitious set. But Director Hudson, I want just to follow up on your comment. EL3 and EL4 are on here because over the course of last year, many times we've heard people raise questions about what is the method through which we engage the community? How do we make decisions using their input? How do volunteers function in schools? So this, I only call that so that you can see that we are actually trying to figure out how to use your feedback and churn it directly into the policymaking process so that you have that avenue that you're looking for to discuss these issues and decide to convert them into policy, which will then make it binding on us in the ways that it should be and you perhaps hope it will be.
All right, if we can go to advanced 2, there we go. All right, it's becoming very clear that everybody's on the same page about board involvement here. And great news that that's a shared philosophy here and people are hungry for that. And it also is key because for community members, it's important to make sure that there's always avenues for you all to reflect the community voice and to make sure that diverse perspectives are available for all decisions and just have the very deliberate opportunity for input on that. We know that when we do that, it develops trust within the community, it develops trust of the board, it develops trust of the staff as well. And probably most importantly about having those diverse perspectives in the room, whether it's in dialogue mode or whether it's input or it's decision making, it does start to eliminate some of the blind spots that can be possible if that is missing at the table. So you can see a number of good reasons up here for why board input in the key work is absolutely necessary. And Eric is going to walk you through an exercise that starts to get at what is the best way to achieve that input for board members. And then we'll do some brainstorming and planning for the future to make sure that those are all coming into play.
Sorry, I forgot about the button again. So we're going to take a couple minutes. You have a handout in your packet that looks like this. It's a fillable form. And you're going to take, I'm going to maybe give you about 5 or so minutes to fill this out individually. And I want you to consider in general, not just within your board work and your role here, but just in general, fill out this form around spaces and places and times where you felt truly engaged and what, and that's what you kind of want to have your frame of mind as you're looking at these questions and statements. So the instructions are that you read each statement under each section and you rate it from 1 to 5, where 1 is never true and 5 is always true. And then you're going to total your scores. And at the end, we're going to see what each style we all have here collectively in the room. And we're going to do a second exercise as a group together after. But first, this is an individual one. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I'll set a timer for you to answer the questions first.
There's a backside.
Yes, there's a backside. I will also add, as you are finishing up, there's an index card where you're sitting. If you want to write down your highest score style and your second highest score on that little index card.
Sorry, did you say our highest score?
Yeah, your two highest ones. All right, you got about a couple seconds. Okay, so hopefully you've all had a chance to write down your top styles that you've. That was a Freudian slip because mine's collaborative, my highest one. But if you had a chance to write on your little index cards what your top 2 styles of engagement are, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to separate into groups of 4. And I was trying to figure out an easy way to do this, and I think I'm just going to do like 4 over here, 4 over there, and 4 over here, and then the ones that are left on this side. So you're going to get into groups of, like we said, breakout, and you have your style on there. There's a separate handout on here that looks like this. It has some colorful illustrations there. So now you're going to move from just in general how you feel really involved in activities and what that looks like for you individually, and now thinking about your role on the board or at work, however the groups are set up. Well, some ideas, this exercise is really for the board to think about activities that you could do that where you could show that style of engagement that falls within the pillars of the governance policy model. And I only put the 3 pillars that actually have, I took out the one that has the executive limitations because that's just saying what not to do, but we're focusing on the 3 that really is more descriptive of what you can do. So back to the conversation that was being had earlier, there might be potential, and you're gonna be revising your policies, so there might be potential for some ideas that come out of here that make it into those changes that you wanna see. So as you divide into those groups, I'm gonna say we have 3 areas, and each group can be responsible maybe for one area. I'm looking over there and I don't see any board members on that side, but it'd be great if we can have maybe a board member or 2 and kind of mixture of staff and board members. And we are gonna have one group be doing the first, so maybe on this side of the room, you all can focus on the governance, the green one, the first group one. And you'll have a individual, the second page of this handout has already some examples, so you can see some activities that might fall under. That's just to inspiration. If you don't like those, you don't have to use them. That's just to give you an idea of what we're trying to brainstorm around. So this group can do the green one over here. Maybe in the back, we do the blue, the results. And then in the side over here, we do the yellow, the staff linkages one. So I think we'll have the people that are here move into those 3 groups instead of doing 4. So some of the groups will have 5 people.
You need a board member back there.
Yes, but I think we have 2 over here, so they can probably find over here. So you'll have blue, green, and the yellow one over here, okay? And we're gonna give you about 10 minutes to brainstorm with each other. And you can see on the little worksheet what styles, based on the activities, if you can fill out like, whose style are we engaging if we do this activity? There's some examples that are already showing you on there. Like, if we do this activity, this would really appeal to people that are on the collaborative side. So we're getting to figure out what kind of activities that are meaningful to everybody is what we're trying to figure out. There's different opportunities. So, ready, set, right.
Can I ask one process question?
Yes.
Are we coming back and reporting out?
We are, yeah, in your groups.
And maybe just so that people don't get caught off guard, who's reporting out? What's the next rule? The last one was the newest to the team.
This is whoever birthday is closest to today.
All right.
Which closest.
Closest, yeah.
Who's closest.
It's not
Okay.
Price is Right rules.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So the 3 over here, just find one of the groups to go in, and if there's, hopefully we can have board member.
Together again. I don't think we need to.
Yes.
It's been a little much. Sorry about that. We're working on green, right? You're my husband's birthday here.
So he's also Scorpio.
I guess. Thank you.
Okay, so I
little huddle here. Do you want to? If I know how other people think we don't That's fine. You're going to have to step up. I'm not going to say. My question is, are we? We work for the person. That's the way the market is. That's the question. Yeah. So are we? So that's the framework I want to say. That's the site where I am. I'm sure. Not everybody is here. So we can always go to where they are rather than some people. Some private, so many hundreds of values are there. But I like the idea. Go wherever. Some are ready to come here, some are ready to come here. Community center. But the idea is everybody has to be that.
That's where they have the ability to discuss.
Because built into that report is the opportunity for some type of how will you what you expand what that because that's well then it could come to
No, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna tell
give them 2 minutes.
you. You got 2 minutes to wrap up.
This is how
Based on these criteria. Defer you guys. And now we're based on the agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see what they come up with right now and see if that helps us.
maybe I want to get that.
Or could they have different town halls or whatever you mentioned, that's an example.
Yeah, so it's,
Remember, we have resources, how do we can work through that, do right
so asking if maybe you want
to work with that, share your message to the community, or to be on the agenda, or be press release, and news cycle, or be on the television.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example, concrete example. Amplifying your what is happening in the whole world. Anything that is passed as a board decision, we can speak as a collective thing. You all speak as an individual member, you can't speak on behalf of them.
It's quite a time right now.
maybe I'm on track for everything, so please let me know.
Okay, I hope you've chosen your speaker.
So that way it should be awesome.
Can't wait to see.
Or
All right, everyone, we're gonna come back to the group. Okay, who from this group over here on the right to me, who's the report out? Whose birthday is closest to today?
It's today.
Today,
Wow. Lisa. Lisa's birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lisa. Happy birthday to you. Yay.
What was
Just make sure to hold on your button. Yeah.
We have a lot of Leos here. All right. Well, this was a really fun discussion for us. So one of our prompts that we focused in on is how should board handle requests? And we had a really nice conversation about, as board members, we may get, whether it's parents or members of the community or staff that reach out to us, often by email, and raise a concern or a question. And it's really not our job to answer those and get in the way of the work of the district, but rather sending it back to the superintendent, and then it flows through the organization. What we would like to do and focus on is consistent follow-up on being on those issues that were raised. So, being CC'd on the responses, just so that we're not left sort of thinking, I wonder how that turned out. But that would really help us as a board really know that, not only did we do our job, but then kind of get the pulse of how things are going. And then we also focused in on building capacity for the board. And monitoring performance. And that is one area that we also got really excited and do a couple of different ways. One was creating opportunities for the board to attend various activities of the district. We called out one around the curriculum adoption. So, being a part of some of those so we can see how things happen. So it's not just relying on a report that is written, but see things in action. So that we have a stronger connection to the work that is happening. And then along with that, in a similar vein, some more instructional visits to schools so we can kind of see how things are playing through, and then spending time with Olga or Danielle or whomever just to really understand what is happening. And then finally, I didn't quite make it up on the board, but we did talk a little bit about creating check-in points throughout the year with the superintendent and executive staff around how are we doing on these various areas so that we can make any modifications or corrections. I will say that we did not go through, and with the leadership styles, we didn't get to that part. So we are incomplete in our responsibilities. But that's our report.
It was already in your subconscious.
It really
You were already
was.
thinking
We
about it.
spent quite a bit of time comparing notes on
Yeah.
who is who, and so a lot of similarities, so that was fun.
Thank you so much.
Can I add one thing to that? There's one sheet in front of you that says board member and superintendent staff communication norms. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that a number of the things that you guys mentioned there are actually established norms. So it says things like, you should expect timely and accurate answers to reasonable questions. You should expect timely invitations to important district and school events. And I think that you're calling it out just emphasizes the importance of us living into this norm document as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the group in the back, who's going to be here?
I love this because it gives us a chance to all recap individually on different pieces so we get the same word out. We've talked about a possible, some sort of, almost like a forum or calendar or something where we could just maybe as board members see events of, if it were feasible, a place of collaboration. What events are taking place this week? What do I have time for? What can I tap into? Including all of those curriculum adoptions and even just maybe sports, musical events, things like that as well. All right, so us. So we did recap again on the access to student feedback. So whether that be board members getting to sit in on some of the advisory meetings, committees periodically, I guess that would come along with that same idea. And the evaluations, the assessments that are taken, and student involvement in the classrooms that we might be able to see. And then we recapped on what already exists. So our lovely student advisors reporting and maybe creating a time where they can, an opportunity to report and invite at the end of, say, every meeting, specifically on what you learned of your most recent meetings and what you've been hearing from the students in those particular groups. So, but my reiteration was just wanting to make sure that we get to hear from all the students that may not make it to those committees. And also, so Cynthia was talking about numerous steps and things that were implemented throughout the years, and one at each individual school, a little message box for the kiddos that are a little afraid and shy or worried about giving their feedback to the school admin or whatever, where they can drop comments in a box, and maybe promoting that out in the district as well. So, state of the district, this is cool. So this year we had it, yay. Some feedback was just promotion of that. So I don't know where all the avenues are that we promoted that event was taking place, but I had heard specifically from some shareholders and other community members the fact that they didn't know it was taking place. So whatever we did before, if we could think about expanding to make sure and we get the word out on that. Board member roadshow. So individually, if we have weekly or monthly events that we hold individually, maybe accessing the district's communication forums to get that word out. Like if Melissa's doing weekly, I'm doing monthly. Hey, can I say, hey, Chrissy's over at the rec on these days, and so on, to kind of piggyback and continue to access that feedback. We talked about some hot topics, curriculum being, and so Cynthia was shared, that was some community feedback from the last one was, hey, we wanted to hear more about curriculum specifically and what are really deep concerns of the community, and maybe also ensuring that we have the opportunity there as well, so we're not missing any opportunities of them dropping in feedback. So again, a little box, same as the student idea, at those district events for whomever attends to just put notes in if they want. So not categorized with questions, but just freely asking, just blank note card, whatever they want, for example. I think that's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, our next group, last group, board governance policies.
I love the roadshow idea. So what we talked about is, again, a lot of the same things that have come up already, but one that was unique is that providing more opportunities and in different ways the public can provide comment. Right now, there's a limit during the meetings to, I think, 30 minutes, 3 minutes per person, first come, first serve. That's not, that's 10 community members a month. So I know that people are encouraged to write in, but perhaps just looking at different ways that people can provide comment, aside from sending an email. And then the second one was, has already been kind of mentioned, but utilizing our communications department to place board members at community events and district events. Maybe, I know that the district is so large and there's so many different events going on in schools, but I think if board members focused on their zones, we could make that a little more manageable. So finding like a centralized way of learning about events. An example that I used during our conversation was the Ready, Set, Register event. I knew about that because I'm on Facebook and I followed it, and I offered to volunteer to be there. But I had to find that in a way. So it would be great to have some kind of centralized calendar per zone, or a way to capture, as an individual board member, to capture more of the district and community events that are happening.
Great, thank you. So you all had really, really great ideas. There's some ideas that are more complex and will take a lot more planning, depending on what needs to be built, the support that needs to be built around there. But there's some that are really like low-hanging fruit that I think would be easy to accomplish. And all of this feedback we're collecting, but it's also going back to Andrea, and she's going to be looking at this feedback and figuring out what can be done this year, what needs further planification, and bringing it back to you all and seeing, here's how I'm incorporating this feedback that you just did right now. Can we go to the next slide? I just want to make sure. one more after, right there, thank you. So right now, our goal was that we just covered this morning, just to quickly recap, because we're getting toward the end and we have one more really good exercise to do. But our goal was to just give you a refresher of what policy governance is, and then also looking at that intersection between that policy governance model and then how you feel most engaged, and where can there be some merger of bringing some new ideas that you just reflected on right now, and things that can make your board work more meaningful as you continue your service, and also bringing the things that are really important to you, like community input or feedback or attending events. How does that all fit into your role, and staying within those guardrails of what your responsibilities are? So there is some, I put on here that there's some board action or planning needed, and that's based on all these ideas, that some of them might be more complex, but we were actually just talking during the break about potentially some things. So at the end, I'll have Andrea kind of give a little bit of a closing statement about what of she's heard right now could be something that could be implemented, what will take more time. So we're gonna switch gears now. I'm gonna,
One more, sorry.
oh, sorry, go back.
Would you mind refreshing? And then,
No, that was what I just said.
right there.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to make sure that we captured the ideas. So during this last conversation, we're just recording some patterns that I heard. So don't worry if some of the specifics aren't there, but there were certainly some patterns there. And to Andrea's point, that whole idea of living into the norm document that already exists. And oftentimes it's just a matter of highlighting that document and saying, hey, remember this. And sometimes it's a matter of deliberately calling out that this is happening in this way, but how do we take advantage of it more completely? So you'll see those ideas represented there, as well as ideas on increasing the number of opportunities, and that could be as simple as being purposeful about identifying those activities that are already available and making sure that board members are included in those. So you'll see a number of ideas here. We're going to keep adding to this list of ideas as we have this next part of the discussion as well.
Okay, now we can go to the next one. Actually, I'm going to hand it over to you, Mike, too. Yeah, start this one.
Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and go one more, Jonathan. Thank you. Okay, we know, where did that occur? Hold on. Did you go one more? And then back to, we're going to find it. There it is. Okay. No, right there it is. All right, thank you. I think that's where you were when I asked you to move it, so sorry about that. We know that engagement can take place in a lot of different ways, and we also know that oftentimes what people go to when it comes to discussion is actually what's taking place during a public meeting or during the board meeting. But just to put a fine point on it is the whole idea that there are avenues that are already available to you that we should be accessing. And those can be as simple as the individual conversations with the superintendent, the emails to the superintendent, sharing information that you're hearing out there in the community and making that information available to the superintendent so action can be taken. Of course, access to board leadership would be another one. And then those one-on-one conversations that are appropriate to have with other board members as long as you're still meeting those open meeting laws. But we're going to, in our next little activity here, we're going to focus on dialogue that occurs within board meetings. Okay, so Jonathan, would you go ahead and one more? Thank you. So as we think about this, one of the things to be mindful of as we deliberately talk about how do you open up these engagement opportunities within board meetings, what we don't want it to be is to, I think we need to do some level setting around expectations. Any idea that comes up, those aren't all going to be appropriate for a discussion in a board meeting. And so putting some guardrails around this and managing those expectations, making sure we're all on the same page with this is going to be important work here. So what you have here is a draft, some draft criteria. And the idea would be to choose items or to engage in have engagement opportunities within board meetings around items that fit these 3 criteria. Maybe not just one, but all 3. Our goal would be to fit all 3 here. And so you can see what they are there. It's that public relevance and transparency, alignment with board responsibilities, and strategic or policy level impact. So as you think about engagement topics that might fit that, you can see how this type of criteria will start to narrow down the number of agenda items that would be placed there. Okay. So we're going to have an opportunity to practice this a little bit, and I'm going to hand it back to Erica, and she's going to take you through this next part.
Okay, so this is, we're going to have some up on the screen in a second. We're going to have some dialogue examples where you're going to see what a conversation might go, maybe look back and forth between a superintendent and a board member, between board members, or things that might happen. These are, I say these are real life scenarios. I don't know where I got these ideas from, maybe from some other board that I used to be on. But you'll see examples, and my goal in this activity is for you to reflect on these questions. Like, is this topic appropriate, first of all, for discussion in an open board meeting? Like, does this fit that criteria that we just had up there? The other question is, what type of dialogue can you identify that it's occurring? So you see there's 4 different types of dialogue in this little chart below. And these, when superintendent brings items to the board, there's different ways that you're expecting the dialogue to happen. Some things, for example, let's say the cell phone situation. There really isn't anything that the board can decide if it's a legislative thing that just happened and it's going to impact your district. The superintendent is bringing you information just to inform you. Maybe you ask clarifying questions, or you just need more feedback, but there isn't really a decision. So this is just to give you an idea of kind of classifying that discussion as like what's happening. So it might be something where she's bringing you information that she actually wants your input on because it's going to be creating something, and identifying that, hey, I need your input, or this is a topic for discussion, and getting an opportunity for the board to have that robust conversation, or it's something that you actually do have a decision, and clearly identifying that that's your role and that's where this conversation is going. So the goal is, as you look at, and then this next exercise, all you're gonna do is find a partner. We're not gonna get into bigger groups, just with a partner. Look at the example, and I'll leave maybe a couple minutes in between each example so you can have that dialogue. Is this board discussion appropriate? Is this topic appropriate for board discussion in the public setting? What type of dialogue do you see happening? Is it informing and clarifying? Is it discussion? And then the third, what would you change in this dialogue? As you see it play out between the characters on there, what would you change? Is there something that you would like as the role of the superintendent or a board member? Is there something in that exchange that you think would be helpful? So you're gonna turn to a person next to you. Hopefully we have enough, I think, to partner evenly. And we're gonna start this next exercise. And you can, at the end, we're gonna just share out. We'll go back through them and then see if it was something that really clicked for you to share out, okay? So, yeah, you can go to the right. All right, here's the first example.
I think we might need to clarify, this is just board members and student advisors, correct?
Yeah.
Exec team members are not joining this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's a board discussion, what type of dialogue, and what would you change? Is that in this? As well. to make these bigger.
I know, I had to take off my
Lord, help me.
glasses to read it. So,
Oh.
cybersecurity threats are advancing rapidly to school districts and common targets. Superintendent's report on asset protection is addressing this topic. I'd like to hear about cybersecurity protection and I suggest a possible update to be on that. This is an important issue. Cybersecurity is a part of the executive communication policy. So it sounds like what it is input. But what it should be is information clarity. I think what it is just based on, I think it's just really without the board member coming with a suggestion to be possible update of the policy. I mean, if you're gonna ask the leader to possibly, if you as a board member feel that a policy should be revised, then it shouldn't really be coming, it's important to ask the superintendent what the current policy is and understand from the cabinet how that policy is functioning in the district. But if you wanna make, if you think a change needs made to it, as a board member, it's kind of a responsibility to put that change together and work with the board to not only understand that more how it functions within the district and how you feel about it, but the other board members as well. Because under governance policy, you have the ability to change the policy, you just need the buy-in from the rest of the board.
Right.
Or the majority. So what started out as input really should be discussion leading to information clarity and then possibly a decision. So it could have been a more meaningful dialogue had the board member understood policy functions within the district first.
Right.
Okay, so, okay. The board member so I think okay, so here's how I feel like it could have been more meaningful. This means board member. I come from healthcare, so be something different.
We're going to come back to the larger group. We have a couple other examples.
That question, and that's not the superintendent's job to answer that question. It's up to the board member to understand it, and then, if the board member had explored possible policy revisions themselves, but collaborate with other board members, perhaps even gone so far as to draft a policy. To bring
If you can finish that last thought, maybe come back where we'll have this conversation as a group.
That hurts.
So one of the things that I wanted to mention, just as we're thinking about like these types of conversations, and Mike mentioned earlier, I was the chair for a couple years on my board and then also on OSBA. And I always look at the board meetings in a public setting, like they have their own little ecosystem. And there's all these other roles that are happening and we have to like function together. So as you look at these scenarios, think about everybody else that plays a role in how these conversations are going on. And I think about, specifically that example where it says, the board chair, there's like silence, nothing's happening. What could they have done, as the board chair to make that conversation more meaningful, or to gently remind people of their roles and their responsibilities, or of the policies that exist. And in this example, if somebody wants to add a new topic to talk about, you actually have a policy about how to add or request an agenda topic, or how that works, right? So part of it is what went wrong in this situation, and how do you gently correct people and also kind of corral them back. But does anybody have any observation that they want to share about this specific example?
I mean, I can't
yeah,
if
go
no
ahead.
one else does, but in the interest of time, do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just kind of inviting everyone to speak with whatever feedback they might have and thoughts at that moment. Maybe setting a goal, a schedule out, for example. Hey, so I understand, you're not prepared this time, you didn't have it, but this is a really important topic. How can we help you figure this out? So whether it be next, meeting, a few meetings. Of course, I mean, you could really go far down that. Tools, reaching out to all the principals and schools and asking how they data collected to obtain whatever stats we might ask them to report back with. After giving us the current policy and the next meeting, asking them to hone in and develop that, so apply resources towards developing a better policy around cybersecurity threats. And then again, check in, hey, we did this, how has that been helping, how are our reports? But again, specifically what resources were used, and maybe at least like a year out or something. So setting the stage for success for the superintendent, in other words, and really engaging conversation and hoping from all the board members.
Anybody else? I want to go to the next one because we have limited time. Can we go to the next example? Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes. Yeah. And you can work with your same partner to have a conversation.
What's that? For wellness day.
Yeah, I think that other than expecting them to give us a report. That new board member could be turned into board member could be
Are these things actually happening in the board meeting? She has one-on-ones with us.
Correct.
That is the time to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Girl, I'm getting.
Right, it sounds like it was really good. So I was like, a lot of it like more than a winter. It's something that I think is really, but maybe allow.
Y'all already getting Christmas and Thanksgiving and how many wellness days you need? Okay, we ready. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna come back. Give you a couple minutes to, a couple seconds to wrap up your thought. Not minutes, seconds. Okay, everyone. So the topic of this discussion or conversation is differentiating policy from operations. That's kind of the header I just want to remind. So I know you had your hand up, so I'll have you guys go first and provide feedback of what could have gone better. Is this appropriate for a board open discussion? Go ahead.
Mel and I feel that a question like this should be asked to the superintendent on your one-on-one. Superintendent Castaneda takes great deal of time to meet with us individually to find out what we're thinking, what our needs are. We've been really, people have really talked about the school board meetings and how efficient we are. So I think you don't bring surprises into the school board meeting. I think you have an opportunity to discuss it with the superintendent, with the leadership team, and find out what all entails having a wellness day. Because she won't be able to. It's number two. Number two. Number two. I learned that as an assistant principal. Nothing goes out that we haven't talked about before, before the meeting, or yes. So that's our suggestion.
Other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
I would agree, and what Director Parker and I talked about was our job is not to say how things happen, our job is to set some goals. So we as a board could say, you know, we are really concerned around wellness and that sense of belonging, and this is a goal that we have, and so we're adopting that, but then we're delegating to the superintendent and to the team to identify ways that that could happen. And so that to me is sort of the, we're saying the same thing, but it's like we're just setting the large parameters and then hearing back from them how they're going to go about doing that.
I would ask Jason Jackson to share what you learned. You had a question about that, right? Go ahead.
Well, so I'm still unfamiliar with how things go in meetings and here on the board, and I had a question about, like, is there something wrong with this? And it really clears up the governance policy, which is yeah.
And something to, like I was saying earlier, that our little ecosystem in each meeting is that this can happen at any time where, as board members, you are the only ones that can check each other. So here you see a veteran member doubling down on getting into operations instead of saying, hey, we're going further. If we want to reconsider our goals as a board and we have to look at our goals and we want to change or add or something. But this is an area where you can see as other board members how you can help each other stay within those kind of track instead of like adding more fuel to the fire in a very public meeting of like, I want to go do this, and that's way beyond your actual responsibilities as board members.
You know, I would approach it this way. We could say things like the chair can say, you know, I hear that you are concerned about the stress that everybody is facing. Let's figure out a way to ask superintendent to let us know what are different ways in which this is being addressed. Leave it open-ended that way rather than trying to tinker with the policy.
I think the way it was, I think the way that, I think you said, you talked about board maturity, leadership maturity, and just those three comments from the board members that just commented, total understanding that that's not the appropriate role, but let's talk about this in a different way. Love that.
Okay, we have time for one more, and then we're going to have some wrap up. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna give you like a minute or two if you want to discuss with your partner. Okay, I'll have you wrap up your thought, and then we'll come back. Okay, so this topic is around dialogue around monitoring and accountability, which is one of the areas that you all have as a major responsibility as board members. And in this conversation, you actually have another board member chiming in support and helping to get across. So I want to see if there's any, what are your thoughts about this dialogue? What could have changed? Is this appropriate? Yeah. Yeah, sure.
My thought was, it should have been an email. Like it should, I mean, this seems like a question that obviously needs some research and knowledge around it. If you don't know, I don't think a board meeting is appropriate time to ask for information such as that. And the second board member, again, the doubling down on it, it just puts the superintendent in a really uncomfortable spot and goes right back to number 2, no surprises. So.
Go ahead.
So, I think that this, there is an important role, as you said, monitoring accountability. Perhaps one of the ways to kind of ask this question is to kind of clarify why ask the question, why the question. Is the question could be to say, trying to understand a little bit more in terms of the interventions that are put in place, the programs that are put in place to shift that thing. Or it could be a small number of kids, so it may not be a meaningful data. Let's say there are only 5 kids. That doesn't, N is not so small that it may not make any sense. There could be many reasons. So the questioning is why question? Is it to understand? The second part could be that the board member 1 is thinking, okay, how much more resources or money should we spend for certain types of intervention to deal with that? Or is there another way to think? So there could be many reasons. But I think one way to clarify would be what is that we are hoping to, board member 1 can say, this is what I'm trying to understand, hence I have this question to clarify. Board member 2 might have kind of, I can't say the motive behind why board member 2, but it's okay to, sometimes one question can spark another person to think in a particular way and lead to a kind of discussion. But I always go with that idea that when you ask a question that what's the purpose of the question? Question is to learn, or question is for something else?
Yeah. I'm gonna go to Jonathan.
Thank you. And I totally hear the tension in this question of knowing ahead of time what the question is, but also in some ways, this is exactly the type of really strong question that we want in our board monitoring conversations. It looks at disaggregate data over time directly about our outcomes. And I also acknowledge it is something to be able to answer deeply and meaningfully requires us to know that question is coming ahead of time. A lot of our process for the monitoring reports does ask board members to pre-submit questions. This is a perfect question to pre-submit, because what we can do before this is go into our own data, look at our internal leading indicators, look at the school by school, grade by grade, to see if there are deeper drivers behind it that we can bring into the conversation when it's asked at the meeting.
Another thing is that when you ask the questions ahead of time, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say our response was pretty similar to everybody else's, being respectful, that you give a heads up, so especially the superintendents, so we have the data, everybody is well informed, and there's no surprises, so, and educating the community with all the data and everything. That basically repeating what everybody else said. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I add something that hasn't been brought up? And I know we're pressed for time here, but one of the things that we hadn't talked about in this general conversation is the perception of those questions being asked in a forum such as a public meeting. The public's going to see that. So you ask the board member number one, ask the superintendent a really charged question. Superintendent's like, I didn't have time to, again, the surprise element of it. Board member two chimes in, and then it goes back to the superintendent. It just gives, maybe it could give a public perception such as the superintendent doesn't want to answer the question. Maybe it can just look like something else really quickly. And so I think that these rules are really important for how the board functions publicly and how people perceive that.
Yeah, and part of the reason why we wanted to have an example like this is because it invites this type of conversation of like what is appropriate, what isn't, and also to really get at the point of like what is your power as a board member. And this is an area that is really, I would say, like, it should be on the I'm going to push like I'm a board member. It should be on the superintendent or staff to know this stuff. They should know this. This is what's appropriate for them to know. So it's appropriate for you to push back on this kind of information that you need and to support your fellow other school board members to say, actually, I don't think you answered that question, so could we, and in a kind way, I know you can't infer from the text what the tone is, but of course you would always say in a professional and kind of way, like, I don't think actually that question was answered, and kind of push back on the superintendent, and this is a space where you have the ability to do that. But I will say, when you ask the questions ahead of time, they have an opportunity that maybe you're not the only board member that's asking this question. And so they can actually say, you know what, we've had other board members, we're going to add that to the presentation and we'll address that so we can have a conversation around this topic. So there's multiple layers. There's definitely an opportunity to ask ahead and make sure that staff is well prepared. And then you also, even if you asked ahead and maybe it didn't get answered, you have every right to push back and say like, hey, I think I emailed this and I didn't hear back, or I didn't do that. That's totally okay. And this is what we're trying to get at, is invite that type of dialogue and conversation, of course, in a professional and respectful manner all the time, but to stay within what you do have the power to do and have that robust conversation. So I'm gonna, go ahead.
I think it also is assuming that the superintendent doesn't have all the information or wants to go back and get more details. I think that's a perfectly appropriate thing to do, to say, we've talked about some great angles of things, let's come back and put it back on the agenda for the next meeting, which I think as a board, we should, that should be seen as a real strength for us to really come back to.
So our goal with these exercises was really to think about that criteria that we set earlier. And when you're going to engage, having that kind of criteria at the forefront. And I'm going to have just Mike, if we can go a couple of slides, 2 slides forward. Just think about, I'm going to hand it to you to kind of wrap this up.
Yeah. So as you had an opportunity to engage with this criteria via the scenarios, and as we think about the executive team using this criteria to make decisions about what's put on future agendas as well, or to have that conversation with board leadership about agendas, do these 3 criteria work for you? Are these worth a test drive as we look to increase the number of engagement opportunities that the board has? Would you make any adjustments?
I mean, I really like this as a framework, but when we are having this dialogue, it would be really helpful if we kind of pay attention to the limitations with which our superintendent is trying to achieve. So we may have a wish list of let me do this, 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 but the budgetary constraint may be something that the superintendent may be finding it difficult to pull it off or scale it up. So there has to be some way of kind of intentionally calling out or thinking through that process. Or superintendent may find that the roadblock could be a legislative law or a federal law or a rule or whatever it is, or simply they are kind of inundated with 10 other crises and there is lack of resources in terms of staff, or they kind of thin the staff so much that they just have to barely one person bearing multiple hats. What I'm really trying to say is strategic and policy one, if it'll be helpful to call out those kind of structural limitations or how long it'll take to scale it up and pull it off in a big organization like ours. So that would be one thing. Because constantly start thinking, okay, try to put ourselves into, okay, how do you pull this off? What are the barriers we are facing? Or what are our own limitations based on our own ELs, right? Those are our making.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we will take a look at adding some type of limitation in there as well. What you said, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to share that as you look this year ahead of how you're going to be incorporating, and I know Andrea's going to talk about how this dialogue will look like when it will happen. One of the key things that is really important, and I want to stress a lot, is that meeting management is going to be really important. And it's great to have all opportunities for all these dialogues, but I think, as you said, you're run the meetings really effectively, and you have to get board business done. So as the chair or co-chair or even ourselves to self-monitor, okay, we can't talk about this for 20 minutes. We have to ensure that we're moving also and getting stuff done on the agenda, and that we're also kind of corralling the conversation to there's an end point to this and what's going to happen, and we kind of keep things moving. So I'm really excited for you all to have these opportunities to have this dialogue, and at the same time, I want to stress that you kind of have to self-monitor each other and be like, you know what, maybe we need to ask for this to be in a future meeting because it's a broader topic, or maybe we need to have a presentation on this so we can all have the same level of information before we engage in the conversation about this topic. So just be aware of that as you think about how you engage in this dialogues.
Yeah. And last thing before we have Andrea weigh in here, this whole idea around, if you'd advance one, this whole idea around being super clear as to what the engagement is going to look like. Don't be surprised if you see the superintendent or you see an executive team member as they introduce a concept or an item to be discussed, to be super clear on what the input is that they're looking for. And I think that also sets the board superintendent team up for success as they have conversations. Could look something like this, but just a lot of clarity around the hopes for this conversation before it occurs. So we've talked a lot about, we've got a lot of ideas here. I'm going to turn it to Andrea to talk about maybe some next steps that her and her team will take, and I'm going to be taking notes as she talks.
This week, I had a chance to join other national colleagues, and when superintendents get together to talk, do you know the first thing they talk about? Their boards, 100%. And there is a certain culture of who's got the hardest board, and then they tell board war stories. And I want you to know that when it comes my turn, I always say the same thing, which is we are spectacularly blessed with this board. I really cannot overstate it. you guys operate with such integrity and dignity, and we stay focused on kids and outcomes. And we all play a role in not letting our boardroom become a theater that distracts us from the work that matters most. The second half of our time together today has been because for 2 years you have come to us and said, we want more opportunities to discuss, and we want more opportunities to engage. And we want to honor the excellence of this board by finding ways to give you the two things that you've consistently asked for and very much deserve. So I have a couple of contributions I think that we can commit to. It will take us a little bit of time to get it on its feet. It's not everything you've asked for, but I hope in this set of 5, you'll hear things that will help you find that sense of fulfillment based on whatever style matters most to you. So first is, I do think we can do more to make sure that you know about upcoming events in schools. We put it in the board newsletter. And I'm going to emphasize that because we do know how often the board newsletter is opened and by whom. There is a calendar list in there. And we can do more. Like, we can add more things that are interesting, important by zone, and sustaining. So we're going to beef up that portion. We don't quite have the capacity to publish a district master calendar because we don't have one either. But we still have all of the insight we need to make sure you know about important events, whether they're fun or whether they're just really meaningful to the work of the district. The second is one we've already talked about. We will work together as a team to expand the report section so that there is an opportunity for dialogue on things that you may not be deciding about, but you may care about greatly and want to have a public discussion about them. Third is, I think that we can do more to invite the board to events that have like advisory groups, like the superintendent's student cabinet. We haven't invited you to those, but we can. I mean, Jackson is a member. He knows exactly what happens there. And I think there are events that we can invite you to that allow you to just look behind the curtain a little bit and learn more about how we are leading or being advised on important work. And then I also think that this is something that we can do together. We would be happy to do a small set of topical briefings on issues that are important to you, that the full executive team or a subset of the executive team leads. The key for us is that we can't do it all the time because everybody's calendar is really full. But we can do it on topics where there is enough interest across the board that if 2 or 3 members are going to show up, we want to do that for you because that means it matters to you. But that also has got a corresponding responsibility for you. We need you to tell us what those topics are and self-organize enough to assess whether or not there is enough interest across the board to put one of those together. So those are things that I think we can and would be glad to commit to because we want this work to be immensely fulfilling for you. We know you put in a lot of hours. We want you to self-report at the end that you feel great about being a board member, that you know why you do it and you know what you get from it, but also what you give back to the community. That shouldn't feel mysterious or diffused for you. I also am going to offer a couple of things that I think you guys can do that doesn't require us at all. The first is if you are not feeling fulfilled, if you're feeling boxed out somehow, I need you to raise that in our one-on-one. If I don't know that it's happening and specifically how it's happening, we have very limited avenues to correct it. The second is we're, again, just going to ask you to prepare for those monitoring sessions. That last example, that was a cheeky superintendent. I would never imagine, nor I don't think would anyone on our team imagine, coming to a monitoring session not prepared to talk about the impact of our work on a group of students and be ready to talk in detail about what we were doing to support them. And yes, we should have gotten that question ahead of time, but honestly, that one was so obvious. I think our whole team looked at it and we were like, ooh, we would have been ready for that. And you should have expected us to be ready. You should. If we're not ready for a question like that, then we are not doing our job for you or for kids in schools. And then the final one is, again, like if you have topical briefings and you want time, this is an immensely talented team. And we all know that your knowledge and comfort with the work we're doing is an important part of shared governance. So tell us, and then we will try to put together the briefings that you're interested in. I want to close actually by just giving time, because just the structure of today, or maybe me jumping in too much, has meant there hasn't been enough time for the full executive team to jump in. But I do want to just pause and give time for you guys to add anything to this portion of the conversation.
Thank you. If I can add two things. One is that I heard from Cynthia and a little bit from Lisa that we should not wait until next retreat to have this check-in conversation. So if we can create a routine to come back and say, yes, we are committing to these things, that we are doing well on these things that Andrea just mentioned. And if we're not fulfilling your need to information and your need for engagement, then please tell us so we can make some adjustments. On my end, I want to tell you how grateful I am. I had a conversation in one of the little teams I participated, but as I'm listening, I'm wondering, how do we include you in some of our regular visits to schools where we are observing teams talk about data, where we are observing teachers teaching, where we are observing teachers reflecting on their craft to make the changes that are needed for kids to be as successful as we need them. And so when I was asking at that time, Lisa and Jennifer, what if we invited you to one of these, to observe in one of these times, and we spent 30 minutes with you after that, debriefing what you saw? I got two excited responses. They're like, yes, we want that. And so that to me is incredibly valuable. And I think I would hear that from the other members of the board. It's what we've been hearing all morning. And we want to do great work for kids. We are here because we care deeply about the system that we are committed to leading. We have amazing teachers that are working really, really hard every day, principals, instructional assistants, people in special education, and we want you to understand their work day in and day out. And we're not going to be there every month or every week, but I'm looking forward to finding some meaningful opportunities for that intentional relationship between you and the work that we do.
Would you go ahead and pass?
Can you actually refresh it again?
So, as Andrea was talking, I was just taking notes, and I think I got most of them. These are the takeaways that we've identified for the day. So the first one is the board assessment discussion that we had. I think Andrea will continue that conversation with board members during one-on-one time and talk about and eventually make those adjustments to the assessment that is going to make it a more meaningful document for you all. Just to summarize, continue to provide information regarding upcoming events. I think the subtext there that wasn't said is, hey, make sure you read them. And the next one is expand the report section to include greater opportunities for dialogue. I think that's a move that is going to help. Invite board to events that will increase board awareness and knowledge, and the instructional rounds insight that Olga just mentioned would be a good one. A small set of opportunities to inform board members on topics that are important. Develop routine to measure how the exec team is doing to meet the needs of the board. Just make sure that's baked into the rhythm of the year. And then the board actions that would be helpful would inform the superintendent on topics that are important and would benefit from board engagement. And if she has access to that information, she can make sure to work those in. Access the information that's currently being delivered. Let superintendent know if you're not feeling included or fulfilled in the work. and then that whole notion around topical briefings. So as we wind down the day, these are the takeaways that would have some action attached to them and result in some changes, so that this whole notion around, and this reoccurring theme around engagement from the board and dialogue amongst each other around important topics is something that can come to life in a very meaningful way.
I also just wanted to point you back to your comments that you did on your self-assessment on a board. I underlined every time that you said on there, stimulate that conversation, engaging deeply, deepen the discussion. There's so many comments in here that talk about this exact same goal that you have, to engage in dialogue, to find a way to connect with schools, participate in activities, and engage. That was like a huge theme. I think all of these items are really targeted to address the feedback that you all provided in the evaluation. And the hope is that like you're all really excited to start this new year, like with all these ideas and opportunities that you're gonna have for engagement for this upcoming year. And we're really excited that this is like the outcome of the retreat, is that at the end of the year, when you have your evaluation again, you're able to come back to name these things. And I'm hoping that we can provide just a follow-up of the slides that we put in the input, maybe a revision of this packet so you have all the notes that we took as well. Okay.
All right, last thing, if you would, yep, thank you. We are a little pressed for time, so instead of 2 sentences, how about 15 seconds on a takeaway or insight from today, as well as 1 word that describes how you're feeling about your work for the upcoming year? So 15 seconds plus 1 word, that's 18 seconds total, okay? So, and we'll start with Jennifer, and we'll go that way so that Cynthia and Andrea have an opportunity to wrap us up.
The 1 word I'm feeling is excited, extremely. What I took away from this is that's insight, a lot of knowledge, learning from veteran school members how policies are run, how things are done, just learning a lot, getting my feet wet and learning about all this stuff. I'm learning everything. Thank you.
What I learned today is that we really do have a lot of ways to engage in meaningful dialogue, and an observation that I have of everybody is just a real level of commitment and real desire to engage in that dialogue for the betterment of our schools. And I too am very excited about this year, so I'll share your word.
Ditto, thus I feel growth and hopeful. My 1 word, though, is advancement. I am excited to see the advancement that I think will come of this next year. Remember, Tuesdays, I go shadow you in the schools. Thanks for putting that out, Olga.
My word is going to be focused, and the main takeaway and insight is just how dedicated every single person at this table is to the work that we're doing together, and that it is really truly feel like a together work and not just individual.
I echo that same togetherness feeling that Jonathan has, and my word is energized.
My word is encouraged, and my takeaway is that we are very aligned on the core set of beliefs and values that bring us all to this table, and I think there's a lot of opportunity starting with that for the work that is happening this year.
My takeaway is about how much I heard today about students, about outcomes, about hearing from students, and really centering there in all of the conversations. And I think that that's really positive, because I think often groups like this can get really distracted by a lot of other things and not keep students at the center. And that is our first core value. My word is hyphenated, and it is fired up.
Being my first time with the group, I'm very appreciative of the relationship here between the executive leadership team and the board. I think it's really healthy, and I'm excited to be part of that. And since excited has already been used, I will say dedication to the mission of the school district and to our students.
I had it, then just lost it as soon as it became my turn. Kind of on the geeky side, I'm super excited. We're going to take a look at some of the language in the executive limitations that haven't been updated. I work on a lot of the policies for the school district, so I'll say my word is collaboration. I look forward to collaborating with you guys on those.
It was really interesting to learn how board meetings work and how this group works. And my word is probably prepared. I'm just very prepared for an interesting and fun year.
Thank you. I think I'll start with the word is gratitude to be working with all of you to make a big difference for our children and the families and changing their life trajectory. So thank you for this. What is one takeaway? The common theme I picked up is communication, collaboration, because we all mean the same. We all have shared values on towards our children and families and their education. So I think we maybe all we have to just kind of get back to our shared values and how can we collaborate within the group, within the board, and with superintendent, with others. That's the common theme I picked up. Then we realize we have more in common than difference.
I think my takeaway or insight, kind of what Danielle said, is that outcomes students, we all want the same thing and we're all really passionate about it. And that passion and drive isn't enough. There's certain tools and skills that we need to learn and how to the best and most effectively way express that in a productive way. And my word that I'm feeling is empowered.
My takeaway, thanks for the blueprint and clarity on our work. When we know better, we do better. My words, I'm anxious, excited, motivated, fired up, and ready to go.
I always have to go after Cynthia. This summer, we did a team reflection. We all read a book, and then we're fired up, anxious, and ready to go because on Monday, we welcome all of our school and district leaders back for a kickoff. It's the most important internal event of the year. And one of the things that I've just been carrying around as a sense of both motivation and inspiration is this idea that we can be a place where 4 sentiments are simultaneously true at every level of our system, from the relationship between students and teachers to the relationship between us at this table, which is we are members of a group. That group is special. We have high expectations of each other, and we believe that we can meet them. And this last part, we have high expectations of each other, and we believe we can meet them, is part of what I'm carrying up to you because the principals have carried it up to us. They're saying, we want to be better. Expect that of us and tell us how. And this group to you, we want to be better. Expect that of us and tell us how. This virtuous cycle of high expectations being the thing that makes the group special is part of what we're trying to lead into the culture of the year, but also we're asking of all of you, because when we all do it together, it in fact can become our culture. And that is what will make us special, not some just inherent specialness about, caring about the same things. We do that already. It's about knowing that that care can be converted into excellence. That is what will make us special. And so that was my very long 2 sentences. And the word I'm feeling is grateful. I think there's a procedural close to this, but the housekeeping close is we have lunch there. we are a very strict and clear reminder. We can eat this lunch. We cannot talk about business because we could find no way to eat a meal together and really enjoy each other's company, but also have to somehow munch on the air. So what we will do is strictly acknowledge that we can talk about our summer, we can talk about our families, we cannot talk about anything related to school district or board work. And that will allow us to eat together. Second is that we have a small district gift, but we are all delighted because for the first time in a very long time, there are district t-shirts. Yes, I know. It's such a celebration. Lisa, we planned this whole thing as a birthday gift to you.
Thank you.
And there's a table set up out front for you to get the t-shirt that you like in the size that you wish. And with that, I think I turn it to the board chair to adjourn.
Thank you all. It is currently 12:09, and this meeting is adjourned.